Protest.
Good afternoon. The time is now 1:08, and a quorum of the board is present. The State Board of Education meeting of February 11th, 2020 is called back to order. Marilyn, are there individuals who wish to address the board during today's meeting?
There are, and I will review a few of the rules. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes to address the board. You'll be seated at this end of the table. If you have handouts, please pass them to the person closest to you, and they will distribute them around the table. It's the practice of the board not to respond to comments during the public participation portion of the meeting. However, you may be contacted after the board meeting. The public participation guidelines state that forms must be submitted prior to the beginning of the public comment portion of the meeting. Do I have all the forms?
Yes, you do.
Okay, great, thanks. We will maintain an atmosphere of respect for all people, and disrespecting anyone by name will be gavelled down and asked to cease. We will be strictly following the time limits, which you can monitor here, so that everyone has an opportunity to speak. I will tell you who the next speaker is and then who's the person following them. So our first speaker is Thomas Banks, followed by Melisha Platter.
Good afternoon. That would be me, Thomas Banks. I am a retired engineer from Ford Motor Company, and I am currently with 2 Sigma Research and Data Team. And I would like to say good afternoon to Madam President, members of the board, and the superintendent. I'm here with 2 Sigma because we'd like to share some information, and I just want to read a couple things to you, if I may. The Black communities in Michigan face a literacy crisis. Our children are as many as 20 years behind other children. By the end of 3rd grade, closing this gap is essential to the economic survival of Black scholars and their families. By 2030, automation will disproportionately impact Blacks, with an estimated displacement of 4.6 million individuals in this race group. Blacks are overrepresented in jobs where automation will be felt higher. Black representations are also likely to see job decline. And that's going to result from disruption by this automation in the jobs that's coming along. Black men, young people, and all Blacks without college degrees are among those with the highest risk of displacement. Compared with other racial groups, Blacks could likely see a smaller share of new jobs in this growth of economics. Solving, we believe, the 2 Sigma group, the 3rd grade reading problem is a key when we address the crisis as a society. Dr. Rice, will you take a look at our approach to see how it can solve the literacy crisis in our Black communities and help you attain your 10 to 10 earlier? Thank you. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Melisha Platter, followed by Joe Coleman.
If we come together?
No, that's perfectly fine. So this is Melissa.
I'm Melissa.
And Joe?
I'm Joe.
Okay.
Yes. Hi, my name is Melissa Plager, and I run my son's foundation, the Braille Networks Foundation, which is geared toward education. Braille played for the University of Michigan, and graduated from school and came out and started a foundation. His mission was geared toward education. He wanted to balance the field and make sure that we help to educate, children. He started a $1 million foundation when he played for the Cleveland Browns, and to help 100 students from the 8th grade to 12th grade to get to college. So that's what his mission was. We met Jim Hare, and he introduced us to 2 Sigma Research Reading Solutions. we thought it was a great idea. He had successes in Curtis, Michigan. He had successes in Highland Park and other areas. So we thought that was a good, something to pair up with. So with our wanting to support his mission, together we've been working to get this instituted in many areas. And I just wanted to say, I felt it was important. I'm an angel investor. We invested in him because we believed in him. And we're just still riding the wave and making certain that we get our message out. And hopefully today we can make an impact on the board, and you can see where we're coming from with our programs. So.
Thank you. Madam President, Board, Superintendent, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Jo Coleman. I'm a lifelong Michigan resident. I was educated through the Highland Park school system in the 60s and 70s when that school system was a stellar school system. It was a model for the state. I left Highland Park and I went on to the University of Michigan, where I achieved my secondary education certificate as well as a master's in guidance and counseling. So education is dear to me, near to my heart. I kind of sold out, however, because like other teachers at the time, you know, the value for teachers was just not there. So I went into another profession that proved to be, you know, quite successful, but I never lost that urge for what is needed and the fact that all children deserve a quality education. So as a private citizen, I opted to invest my time and my resources in things that made sense and things that were proven to help better and advance education. So some years ago, I was introduced to the 2 Sigma Research Reading Solution, and I saw through their efforts, through their pilot efforts, tremendous success. One success actually was in my city, my alma mater city of Highland Park, where utilizing the mastery method for education, the students were advanced by proficiency levels that had not been seen. I was sold on this program. I'm still sold on this program. And for that reason, I'm here today asking you to just take a look. There is no commanding solutions that I know of on the table for our state. We have a solution. We have data that shows it works, that shows it is a good program. And we believe if you take a look at it, we can help you advance our 3rd grade reading scores by the end of this school year. We're just asking for an opportunity to be heard and considered fully. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Jan Smith, followed by Edwin Dowell.
Madam President, members of the board, superintendent, good afternoon. My name is Jan Smith. I'd like to thank you for having me here. I am a Chicago native who has a deep root to neighborhoods. I'm a part of the 2 Sigma Data Research Group. And for the past 20 years, we have been looking to make a change in the underserved, in the worst areas that everybody looks away from, the one that everybody says we need to help and never really gets help. And it started out with just attempting to connect the children to curriculum that was being stripped from the classroom and actually placed out in a place where they'll never be able to see it. And it went from that point to actually being able to help the children learn how to learn and how to learn on their own, how to help the educators, to actually give the educators some hope in the classroom, something that could actually help them. Because the one thing we found within our 20 years is that the educators became lost, and when they became lost, they became disenfranchised. When they became disenfranchised, then the kids suffered. And then that carried on throughout the rest of the institution and normally the district. And we've been from districts from the slums of Puerto Rico dealing with the language barriers that we have all the way to California, our state capital and the corridor of shame in between. So without losing our drive, I made sure to place myself within a neighborhood so that I can look at my same children every day and not forget where I came from, because I am a product of public education, also a product of prestigious, historically Black university. I'm an aerospace engineer by degree, business owner by heart, trade, and love. And what we do is we reinvest back into the community to give those who don't have that opportunity, because the easiest thing for me to do would be to drive by them like majority of my counterparts do every day. But we can't continue to do that. So the greatest investment that I've made, and I'm telling you, my pockets have felt it, was in this 2 Sigma data research group and giving back to the community any way that we possibly can to make some noise so that those who have the opportunity to make a decision and guide these children, put some hope back into the classrooms. If you ask the children how many of you had a dream last night, none of them could tell you. But they can tell you about the nightmares that they have. They can tell you about the trouble that they had getting from the doorstep to the classroom. And no matter how they made it to the classroom, the fact that they made it there, we owe them something. So I'm asking everybody to please take a look at this, because when I listen to the meetings and I listen to what's going on, it's always, we have no data, but we need more money. We have data. We'll show you how to get the funding. We'll work hand in hand with you. Please, I'm asking Dr. Rice, board, president, take a look at this, because I have not heard any plans, and we have something that may work. Thank you for your time.
Edwin Dowell is next, followed by Sean Hairston.
Good afternoon, Madam President, member of the board, and superintendent. I'm Edwin Dowell, and I am also a son, a father, a brother, a cousin, and I'm a longtime Michigander and Detroit native. I work very much in the community in Detroit and in Pontiac. I also am a social entrepreneur and a scientist. A lot of my research has been in the area of aquaculture, aquaponics, and renewable energies technologies. Literacy affects us all in all areas of our life. You can't read, you can't achieve. But also in listening to your meeting, I want to commend you on all the work you guys have done. I like to say I heard a lot of what I would consider beautiful ignorance, because I don't feel me as a Black man represented in this room. And when you talk about what's going on in the classrooms and the in-between time and getting them there, I encourage my children to read, and they're in college and doing well. Everybody doesn't have that background. Also, it troubled me to hear that the praise of the funding that's come from Title 4D, and to be precise, Section 458 of the Title 4D funding, which states get incentives for, utilize that funding. Well, as a parent, as those things, I have dealt with Title 4D funding through Friend of the Court systems, and it does nothing but destroy families. So, my getting involved with the Sigma group and seeing what they can do with literacy, and them showing the models that could be utilized with Title I funding and guarantee the result from where they are to where they go, I'm 100% behind it, and that's why I'm with them today. So we would like to ask Dr. Rice, will you take a look at this 2 Sigma approach and see how this methodology will assist Michigan in achieving the top 10 and 10 goals and eradicate the reading crisis in Pontiac, in Detroit, Benton Harbor, and anywhere else is an urban area? Thank you.
The next speaker is Sean Hairston, followed by Dr. John Telford.
Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board, and the superintendent. My name is Sean Hairston, and I'm out of Flint, Michigan, which you all have heard a lot about previously. We've been devastated. And I am here to tell you, I've been a mentor for over 15 years. I've worked in Pontiac, Flint, and Saginaw, and I have never seen the likes of the literacy rate that's going on in the city of Flint right now. The kids cannot read past the third grade education. The average kid is dropping out of school before they get to the ninth grade. And when you have these kind of things happening, you're gonna have crime. And when you have crime, you're gonna have death. There's only two other things besides death. It's death in prison. And that's what we're looking at in the city of Flint if we don't get these things taken care of. I also want to just touch a little bit on the water crisis in Flint. I'm talking about another devastation. I was just with a family last week. Her son was born through the water crisis. It's devastating just to sit here and talk about it. I get teared up because this kid, they didn't think he was going to make it. He's 4 years old now, but they didn't even think that he was going to be able to talk, maybe not even walk. But through God and some of the programs that they have now, he's talking and he's walking. But he's got a bigger challenge because now at 4, he can't even talk that well. So he's got to learn how to read and write. The point I'm trying to make here is that if we don't do something about this now, we're going to lose a whole generation of kids from the crisis. And due to the literacy rate that we have in the city of Flint, we need help. And with the 2 Sigma program, I believe that they can help us curb some of the literacy that we have going on in the city of Flint. But it's not just going to take us, it's going to take everybody. And if we don't do this, like I said, we got 2 things that's going to happen. Most of these kids are going to die, or either they're going to go to prison. And I ask today, right here and now, help us, because we need help. Thank you very much.
Dr. John Telford is next, followed by Dr. Judith Berry.
Hot seat, huh? Cards are for the board. Thank you. I'm John Telford. I was the superintendent of schools in Detroit in 2012 and 2013. And I was looking for a way to get our third graders back up to snuff because of the takeover, which was imposed upon us by the state in 1999, 2 decades worth of takeover. And I encountered, by serendipitous fortune, Mr. James Hare. And I took a long look at his program and decided I wanted it for Detroit Public Schools. And the board unanimously agreed with me. So we were about to put that field-tested, research-based program in place when the emergency financial manager in 2013 became the emergency manager, via Public Act 436. And our board was summarily disempowered, and I was fired. So I was not able to implement that program. Helen Moore and I are on a committee right now in Detroit, and I'm employed again by the schools. I'm their poet in residence, and we're working on a Let's Read program, which is a very good program. But it's not using Quick to Learn 2 Sigma as yet. I would like to see Dr. Rice and the board implement that program statewide. It's a pay-for-success program that can do magnificent things for all of the predominantly black and brown populated school districts in the state, and also some of the rural school districts that are scoring far below the state median. But in order for that to happen, it's going to have to be an effort on the part of this board and this superintendent to make it happen. I owe everything that I am to the Detroit Public Schools. I was a kindergarten student there in 1941. I'm 84 years old. If it hadn't been for the Detroit Public Schools, I would not have got a college education, gone to Wayne State, became an international track star on the United States national team. I owe it all to public education, which is in danger right now in this state and in this nation because of Trump and DeVos. So hopefully, everyone sitting around this table will take what I have to say to heart and make this program a reality for the state of Michigan. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Judith Berry. I don't think she's here, is she? Okay, so the final speaker is James Hare.
Thank you very much. As you heard earlier, we have a cross-section of community folks, and Dr. Berry is an esteemed educator who Ms. Snyder, I believe, worked with a few years back here at the Department of Education. She's known nationwide, and she's kind of the academic anchor for our research project. But let's go into basically what is 2 Sigma. Essentially, when we started studying this problem, we looked at it from the standpoint of technical people. I'm an ex-IBMer. I work for Intel Corporation, kind of Silicon Valley, Detroit, but I was mainly in the automotive industry before I retired and wanted to do something with more social impact. But what we found in going through the research literature is that the answers seem to be hiding in plain sight. In 1960, Dr. Benjamin Bloom out of the University of Chicago was doing work in the area of mastery learning, and we found that you could get a reliable 1 standard deviation of growth with low-performing students. That's equivalent to 4 years. In the 80s, he went a step further. He said, what if we gave each student their own tutor and we used the mastery approach? He then got another standard deviation. So now we're talking about 8 years of growth in 1 year. All of this will be available to you. Actually, we submitted, last time we came, we kind of made that research available. We'll update it. Here's the thing. For the last 40 years, Silicon Valley has been chasing this dream because obviously no one can afford, we can't even afford regular teachers now, and we underpay them. How do you get 1 teacher for each student? Well, obviously, the answer that Silicon Valley's been chasing was how can we do it with technology? I'm happy to report today that our little research group based at Wayne State University figured it out. And we have mountains of evidence. We took a 0 percentile school in Curtis, Michigan. Cross the bridge up north, turn left, drive 1 hour, turn right, you're in Curtis. They were 0% proficient the prior year in 3rd grade reading. We moved them to 76% in 1 year. It really works. And now that we have ESSA, we have an interesting capability called Pay for Success. We're happy to announce that we want Michigan to become the first state that only pays when a minimum growth of 1/4 of a standard deviation is achieved. Dr. Rice, I want to thank you and the board and everyone here for this opportunity, and we look forward to doing this first in Michigan before we take it across the country. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public participation.
Dr. Judith Berry, still not here.
Dr. Berry's still not here, I don't think. I don't see her.
We don't see her.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the Committee of the Whole agenda is presentation on the strengthening of career and technical education for the 21st Century Act plan. It is the Perkins 5 plan. The final draft of the Perkins 5 state plan is being presented today. The board will be asked to approve the state plan at its March meeting. Our presenters today, Dr. Scott Kenichnek, back by popular demand, Deputy Superintendent P20 System and Student Transitions, and Dr. Brian Piles, Director of the Office of Career and Technical Education. Doctor and Doctor, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dr. Rice. Thank you for allowing us to once again talk about the Perkins State Plan. Thank you, State Board, as well. So this has been before you a couple of times. We were here last year talking about the plan for the state plan. We were here also to present a shell of the plan that was to go out for public comment. What we're here this afternoon for is to come back and present that actual plan in preparation for asking you to approve it next month. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Piles.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to present to you again. As you look at the definition of Perkins 5, I've recently really benefited from individuals that are trained in career and technical education. Many of my colleagues and friends know that I recently had my West Side neighborhood house here in downtown Lansing remodeled. And in under 60 days, my female master electrician, who's going to be our Breaking Traditions Award presenter at MDE this May, along with my general contractor, Travis Walton, who went through the Lansing Public School Construction Trades Program back when he was in high school, which was a while ago. And then my carpenter, Ricardo, was the gentleman that did the woodworking completion for the state capitol. And so I had these craftspeople that did such a great job. And I think about career and technical education and the absolute honor it is to be a state director of career and technical education and to see the difference that career and tech ed makes in these adult lives. Because everybody was, I would assume, 40, maybe a little bit older, and masters at their craft. And I absolutely adored my master electrician because she was so intuitive, and she would think of things and she'd be like, I think I'm gonna add a light switch here. I think I'm gonna add this here. And she kept giving me these little pieces of paper to sign off on for $25 here and $10 there. And I'm like, just do what you need to do. I promise I'll pay the bill. And she actually rewired my knob and tube wiring also and brought it all up to code. And so while I was living through this, they gutted my kitchen, they gutted my bathroom, they took out all the wood on the first floor, put in a 5-inch hickory plank wood floor, all new windows. They lifted the center of the house to make it level again. They relocated a staircase, they took out a wall and relocated plumbing. It was a masterful project in 60 days. And we sat around at night and go, what a great place to live. And all these people are attached to current technical education. And the nice thing is I've also met some of their children who are attending our current technical education centers across the state of Michigan. And we're actually going to have them over for a little bit of a backyard barbecue because we're going to do a little bit of career counseling with their young people because you can't have enough people interested in your life. And so I share that with you because it made such a difference. And then in the middle of that entire experience where I was homeless for 60 days, I might add, because I didn't live there, I lived in Airbnbs and I lived everywhere, right? I lived over in Flint for a week with some friends and drove in every day just to have some fun. My Jeep Grand Cherokee, it's a 2014 and I plan on keeping it for a while. It decided to need 2 expensive repairs. And so you think of the skill set of our automotive technicians, and that's also current tech ed. And so as we're working on our Perkins 5 plan and we're writing it, you know, as a citizen, not as your state director, but as a citizen, I'm really benefiting from all of these individuals and their skill sets. And so appreciate them. And hopefully when you receive your invitation to Breaking Traditions, you'll come meet Monica, who's our master electrician, and she also taught summer camps at Eaton Risa. And so we're all pretty well connected. It was a lot of fun. Enjoyed it. So as you look at our Perkins vision that we developed for Perkins 5, that really encapsulates what we want to do with Perkins 5 as we move forward. Part of it is making sure that we have multiple career pathways, making sure that we have several opportunities for students to enter and exit the system, whether it's in secondary or post-secondary education, because life happens. And you oftentimes think of people that they're working toward that bachelor's degree, they hit a couple of bumps in the road. Had they gotten an associate's degree or an industry certification related to their training along the way, they'd at least have a credential to shore them up until they get back on their path. And so between us and our partners, as you know, over with Labor and Economic Opportunity, we want to have multiple opportunities for students to enter and exit the system. Also, we had a variety of stakeholder groups that I've talked about before and I'll talk about again that help to inform the plan. And then also our strong alignment with our K-12 partners and In each one of our programs, we identify the English, math, science standards that are applicable to that area. And so making sure that we're continuing to focus on increasing those skills for the students so that they can be successful, because those of us around the table that knew what vocational education was like in the 1960s and 70s, it's a different skill set today. And they need to be sure that we have those skills for them. As I mentioned, Labor and Economic Opportunity is our post-secondary delivery system for Perkins 5, and then we are the eligible agency here at the Michigan Department of Education. What sets career and technical education apart, and what really sets Perkins programs apart, is that all of our programs have a hands-on learning experience where students need to apply the skills, and each one of our students need to cross the threshold. They need to at least leave the school one time and see what it's like in business and industry, so they can see how they're going to apply those skills and possibly meet their next best mentor. And that happens when students get to go out and connect with employers. And it also brings the reality to employers of how they can help educate our citizens in their partnership. And then, of course, our student organizations like Future Farmers of America, DECA, and Business Professionals of America. Those student leadership opportunities for students to apply their leadership and academic and occupational skills are great experiences for all of the children. And then when we move into our post-secondary component, it continues the integration to be non-duplicative, and that everything continues to be rigorous with challenging academic standards, so they're learning what they need to know so that they can be the best career and technical education professional available. As you know, we have 17 career clusters that we deliver programs in here in the state of Michigan. And we don't always think of them, I think, as broadly. We oftentimes think of the skilled trades, because that's what we talk about a lot. And there's a lot more to career and tech ed than just the skilled trades. Think about agriculture. I myself was a high school agri-science student down in Clarkston, Michigan at the Oakland Technical Campus. And I had no idea I was in vocational education back at the day, nor did I know that when I went there, because my guidance counselor told me I wasn't smart enough to go to college, that I'd be sitting here in front of all of you with the honor of being a state director. And so it's a great experience, but agri-science is part of what we do. And also energy, and we're the only state with the energy cluster, and we created it in demand from our energy education partners. They helped us put together the programs, and we have programs across the state in secondary and post-secondary helping to educate children for those careers, because our average line person is in their 60s. They're not going to be climbing those poles into their 80s. Not saying they can't do it in their 70s, because a good friend of mine, her father was a heavy equipment operator until he was 84 years old. Fell down, broke his leg in a 6-foot drop. After his leg was repaired and he healed, what'd he do? He was back in his equipment working, because that's just what that man did. And then there's a second page of career clusters in areas that we work. Law and public safety, in corrections and security. You know, we have programs out across the state that help prepare students for those careers. And we're doing a lot in the area of our, what we call education general or cadet teaching, to encourage students to go into teaching as a profession. And I actually had the opportunity to speak to that at the Michigan Career Education Conference just last week. And part of my State of the State address was why we as education professionals should really be encouraging our children to consider our profession. Even though we have reasons why we haven't done it, I articulated some of those and then articulated the reasons why we should, as I was taught by a cadet teaching instructor one time and was told the reasons why. Dr. Kenishek mentioned that we're in our transition year and that this is our new state plan that we provided you with. This year, we received $41 million to fund our Perkins programs. As a reminder, we had 4 subcommittees and a statewide committee that we received stakeholder feedback from. And unlike previous editions of the state plan, we're going to keep those committees running on a semi-annual basis, giving them updates on their area of expertise, what we're doing, where we see ourselves growing, and getting their input. So when it comes time for Perkins 6, because I think I'm young enough that I'll still be with all of you for Perkins 6, that we won't have to reinvent the wheel. We'll have a system rolling of input throughout. Because we need input all the time, not just during the development of the plan. We also had other groups that we met with, besides those 5 official committees, the 4 subcommittees in the statewide committee, and met with people who are very much so interested in the development of career and technical education. And Dr. Jill Kroll out of my office has done a lot of work with the tribal education leaders, and we have some scheduled time with them in the future to really make sure that the children have access to career and technical education, and educating the tribal education leaders as to what those opportunities are. And that's a new group for us to really deeply engage with. And every time Jill talks about it, she's so very excited because the tribal leaders are so excited about learning more and providing those opportunities to their children. The new state plan, as you know, went out for public comment for 30 days for the state plan and 60 days for accountability. And we didn't receive a lot of public comment. And people ask me, why didn't you receive a lot of public comment? It's like, because everybody loves career and technical education. And oftentimes when something's really positive and things are moving forward, they don't take the time to say, oh, God, we love you guys at the Michigan Department of Education, and thank you for doing this for us, and over at Leo. And I believe that's why we had so few comments. And then we also had our public hearings. We have a couple of new accountability measures on the area of academic achievement, as we'll be measuring science in ESSA. We'll be measuring the science proficiency of our high school career and technical education students. And I think that will be really good for our teachers, and we might be able to assist students in the areas of growth. And also non-trad program concentration. It used to be enrollment and completion. Now they're taking a middle score to see how many kids concentrate. And that's making sure that we are taking the opportunity to have students that are traditionally not, for their gender in an occupation, are enrolled. For example, females in construction trades. Just last week, I had the opportunity to be with the construction trades teachers for a couple of days. And at the end of my 45-minute update with them, I said, if I can just really ask you to do one thing for me, quit using the word men and boys and he. Can we use male and female, he and she, or students? I said, because when you have a child in your room, or a child walks by your room, or is seeing what's going on in your room, if they don't hear their gender, they feel like they don't belong. And I give a very specific example of a male cosmetology student and a female cosmetology instructor that I'm not so sure that I was totally effective in changing this instructor's behavior, but we had some long conversations about the way that she spoke to her children in the classroom and whether or not she was using he and she. And so I think that's a really important component. And it's an important component to me because I want everyone to feel like they fit in. Our traditional special populations categories were in place through Perkins 5. Of interest are the new ones. And our instructors are now going to be identifying and providing support services for homeless students, youth who have aged out or in the foster care system. And it's really important for us not to forget about them when they age out, because when they age out, there are sometimes they are removed from the home that they were living in. And we need to be sure that we're doing what we can do, because a lot of our current tech ed instructors, over the course of their programs, through their student organization like FFA, build such solid relationships with the children, they'll share what's going on. And then maybe that teacher can then connect them up and help them with additional resources. Also added to our list are students who have a member, a parent who's a member in the armed services. Why is this important? Well, because of what I said earlier as I talked about my personal experience over the past few months, but also looking at our data. Our enrollment has grown by 6.22%. Our CTE completers have increased by over 75%. And we've had almost 20% growth in CTE programs. There's a strong belief in CTE programs making sure that our students can get a variety of skills and pathways through their high school experience, and we want to continue to see that grow here at the Department of Education. Our timeline will be followed up by March 10th, asking the board to please approve the state plan, at which time we will submit it to the Federal Department of Education. What questions do you have?
Thank you, Dr. Piles, Dr. Kinnickschneck. Board members, questions? Thoughts? Ruminations? Ms. Ramos-Montigny.
Why is this document called Perkins?
Oh, Carl Perkins, he was, I believe, an elected official that advocated for the funding. But I can verify that, but I believe it is, because we call him Uncle Carl.
Okay, Uncle Carl was Representative Carl Perkins. He was Congressman from Kentucky, chair of the House Education and Labor Committee, and a strong advocate of CTE programming.
What time frame?
Pardon me?
What time frame?
Back when I was young and you were younger. So I remember him right out of college in Congress when I was a congressional intern in 1984.
Okay.
So after we had sort of seen a dip in support for it from the 50s, 60s era.
I don't know that. I cannot speak to that. It may be true. I just don't know that history. Yeah.
Very good.
Other questions? Yes.
And another question I have is, well, I see you use parent throughout the document.
Mm-hmm.
And I always am very cognizant of the fact that not everybody's a parent, but they're the guardians too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, and I think that's a very important word. Even if you don't put grandparents, because I would love that too, because there's a lot of families where the grandparents or the parents, but a guardian is a very essential word because not all of our students have parents.
Yes. Well, thank you for that. And we'll take care of that.
Other thoughts? Ms. Lockheed.
I'm just going to agree that everybody does love CTE.
Yes.
I mean, everywhere I go and I've been in a lot of different districts now, and the CTE programs are doing amazing things for kids that traditional teachers haven't really been able to do. So I agree with you.
Thank you.
Ms. Fecto?
I'm just wondering about the geography of where the CTE programs are located. I think I've read some reports that said that higher poverty areas, they don't have as much access to some of these programs. I know in Detroit we have A. Philip Randolph Institute, and that's been sort of rejuvenated recently. But where do you see that as an issue, and what is being done to address it?
Absolutely, it's a concern for us. And you're probably referencing the University of Michigan, Georgia State study, our partners that we've been working with. And so through our comprehensive local needs assessment for Perkins, and for the first time ever, each one of the regions had to do an inventory and analysis of program offerings relative to student location and student interest. We're going to be addressing some of those opportunities and highlighting from the plans that were submitted to us areas for growth and opportunity around the state of Michigan. Also, I had a conversation with my leadership about how do we go about growing career and technical education programs when millage isn't always the solution, right? And so Dr. Rice and Dr. Kenishek and Sheila and I were having a conversation, and we're going to put together over the course of the next year areas where they don't have the millage opportunity, but they have the programming geographically distributed, so more children have opportunity to it. And how have they been successful to create that system? So we're going to work on some leadership opportunities here at the state to address those concerns and invite regions into a planning session. Yeah.
Ultimately, we want to reduce the number of CTE deserts across the state, because there are in fact CTE deserts, and some of them are where you might think that they would be, and some of them are just in geographically distant or relatively isolated corners of the state. I will tell you, though, that in some of our rural communities, there is enormous pride in their CTE programming, huge pride, and they can tell you piece of equipment by piece of equipment where they got particular things, how they cobbled together the funding associated with it, what business donated that lathe, or. I mean, there's tremendous feeling that CTE programs are really lifesavers for a lot of our children. It is mythic that our kids aren't in CTE programs. CTE programs are coming back. You point out a 6% increase in program participation in the last 4 years, a 75% increase in program completion in the last 4 years, 18% increase in the number of CTE programs in the last 4 years. It's a big deal. CTE is on the rise in Michigan, and the premise that it isn't and that somehow there are impediments to CTE participation. There are some impediments where there are no programs, but the idea that there are scheduling impediments, not as frequent as there were in the beginning of the Michigan Merit Curriculum. A lot of those issues have been worked out at our local school district level with the flexibility that local schools have used that's embedded in the Michigan Merit Curriculum. So I think this is going to be a continued growth area over a period of time. Every child is not going to go to a four-year institution. Every child's dream does not require 4 years of college. It doesn't mean that he or she can't make a great living in a career in a technical field. Yes, Ms. Tilley.
I was going to say in Oakland County, we have, I think it's the OSTC, where there are different locations, and they're wonderful. They're amazing. They do a lot of good work there, but the issue is, again, the distance, because they're spread out. So students from other cities have to get bused there and bused back to their school. So then that becomes an issue for them, where they would want to participate if it was in-house or closer.
Right, and so the question is, how do you maximize participation within either current resources or relatively reasonable additional resources, however constituted? Dr. Pugh, then Mr. McMillan.
I guess the only other thing, and I've raised this every time we have this conversation around CTE, is when we look at impediments, is the connotation or the thought that some populations have because of previous usage of CTE, or how some children were put into CTE, and parents there are still perceptions that CTE is a tracking mechanism. So as we look at the impediments, I think that that's one that we have not overcome, and we definitely have to address.
Thank you. Mr. McMillan.
So CTE enrollment increased by 6%. How many students is that?
It's about 6,000, roughly.
I think it went from 104 to 110,000 in the last 4 years, from 14-15 to 18-19.
How many completers?
27,000 to 47,000 during the same period.
In one year?
4-year period, 14-15 to 18-19.
So 27 to 47 total completed in 4 years? So like 10,000, 9,000 a year?
Each year we measure completers.
The definition of a completer.
Oh, the definition of a completer is a student that successfully completes all 12 segments of the program and then took the technical skill assessment if applicable. And we measure that every single year. In some programs, students complete it in a year. In other programs, it can take 2, 3, or some of our agri-science programs even take 4.
Okay, so is that every year 30,000 or 40,000 completers?
Yes.
Okay, that's an annual.
Yeah, of the 110,000 that we had enrolled in the most recent year, 47,000 were completers.
And so this 41 million, is that about what flows through from the feds to, it goes to us and then we distribute it?
Yes. Yeah.
And this will be distributed based on the new state plan, a 3-year state plan?
It will be distributed based on the title formula provided by the federal government to the districts.
Oh.
And so the distribution of the funding won't change as a result of Perkins 4 to Perkins 5. The funding formula is remaining the same.
So we're going to be asked to approve what, the new state plan 2020 to 2023 or the transition year plan?
The new plan.
The new plan. So, and that's primarily going to be money that we're going to approve? Is there a draft of it or anything we can see? Or
you should be provided a draft in your portal, okay. Or however we communicate information to the board members.
Okay. Well, I would assume it's public as well.
It is.
Yes, we've gone through public comment.
Now for public comment, and what we'll do is we will share in board brief again the Perkins 5 plan, so that you have the opportunity to see it.
So is there discretion in how it's, you said that there's a formula from the feds. Is that right? Or there's
Yes, 85% of the money that comes into the state of Michigan then goes back out, goes through a formula to our 27 regions, to our school districts.
Okay, and they can do with it whatever they want.
They have to submit a plan every year that has to be approved by the Department of Education, and they have to spend it in accordance with the Perkins 5 plan or currently the transition plan.
So as far as discretion goes, I mean, we're not going to be asked to say 5 million ought to go to this one instead of that one, or 1 million here or there, or you should be funding this kind of thing and not that kind of thing. No kind of discretion like that.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
I'm
Yes.
still not clear. I'm still not clear in my brain. So then, they don't apply for the funding. The feds tell you what districts are going to get the funding?
Yeah, there's a funding formula that we have to follow, and within our 27 regions, we have to apply this formula. And so Region 1 gets this much money, Region 2 gets this much money, and so there's a funding formula for it, like a lot of other title programs.
So in your application, you identify the different regions,
Yes?
and then there's a formula how much money each region gets.
Yes, yep, in the actual state app, in the state plan, there's a page in there that shows exactly how much money goes to each one of the secondary CTE regions, and also how much goes to each one of the community colleges.
Okay, the community colleges are also part of it.
Yep, they're also in that plan as well.
That was my next question. And well, I have to say and testify that these programs are absolutely out of line. Remember, I talked to you about Juanito building a garage for their family, and he went to GRCC, to their program, and he learned how to do it. And so now it's finished. And so now they have all their equipment in there because they do yards and all that kind of stuff. So now it's beautiful. And now he has a very good job. Everybody wants him. He applied to different, and everybody would, well, I'm getting this over here, and we'll up that. And so he's doing well. And also there's individual families that want him to go do work for them because see what this program did. And I think you all said that not all students want to go to college. He right away, his sisters went to college, but he told his parents, I do not want to go to a 4-year college. I want to go study construction. That's what I want to do. And see, if this program hadn't been there, Juanito wouldn't be where he's at. So, good testimony.
That is a good testimony. Thank you very much for bringing it down to the individual student level. I appreciate that. Dr. Pritchett, back to Ms. Fecto.
Thank you. Just two things, kind of just to piggyback on what I've already heard. First of all, I concur with Dr. Pugh that there is it may not be very widespread, but there is a concern about CTE being tracking. And by that, I mean once I choose or a student chooses an area, they're stuck. I've heard that from parents whose children are getting ready to go into the secondary area. So I know that's not true. I try to spread that, but it's out there. And it'll probably remain out there for a while, partly based on the way it used to be. And we all think out of our own lens. And the other thing, Dr. Rice, is I don't think we can reiterate enough to our secondary folks the issue of flexibility in scheduling and personal curriculum, so that it doesn't become a hindrance to say this child can't go into CTE because of this and this that still need to be fulfilled for their merit curriculum versus, okay, let's sit down and see how that can be done. So
It's a really good point. I know that we've been in some conversation with you about that. We've also had the opportunity to present to MASSP and several hundred secondary school educators about the flexibility that currently exists within the Michigan merit curriculum that they simply have to access on behalf of our young people. And I think there's a consciousness raising that's taking place within the association, within the department, back out to locals around that issue. There's still more work to be done on the issue. Yeah, I agree with that. Ms. Fecto.
I'm just wondering about modifying the curriculum so that special ed kids can participate without having, because I know, you look at the 4-year graduation rate and maybe they're not kids that are going to be on track to graduate in 4 years, or maybe they won't complete the curriculum as, set. They might need something modified in order to do parts of some of the jobs, maybe, whatever, to reach their potential, but it might not be the full, array of skills that are necessary or that are mandated. So I'm wondering if this revision of Perkins allows not just for accessibility of kids with disabilities, but to actually modify the curriculum and not have the school, the program be penalized because they've modified the program. Is that something that has been changed in this new rendition? Because I think it was an issue in the past.
So the federal government did not address that issue in particular as far as when we define our enrollees and concentrators and completers for Perkins 5, they still have to accomplish a certain amount of the standards. While we can modify the curriculum under which those standards are taught, we still have to reach those standards. What I believe that we're doing, though, that is the right thing on behalf of our children, whether you're in special education or you're just, and you're not, and maybe you're not in CTE, or you're a general education kid, you're not in CTE, is that when we rolled out our comprehensive local needs assessment and we looked at credential and credential attainment of students and the required component of that for Perkins 5, we're starting to look at stackable credentials in ways that those can be delivered. And at the table, at the regional level, we're now requiring that we have people from special education and transition as part of those conversations, because there can be some specialized programs in transition that teach a more defined skill set and can benefit from the work that we do in Perkins and the knowledge that we gain through, and that's the purpose of the stackable credentials, is so that children have a place to start and then maybe lift themselves to another rung and to another rung. So philosophically, we're working on it here in Michigan and trying to lead our districts in this conversation, but we still need to meet the performance requirements of the standards.
So they would have to be, a program won't be penalized if they only got 2 of the 5 stackables or something. They couldn't, if getting 2 skill areas was all, was what would meet their potential, but they wouldn't be able to go beyond that they would not necessarily be accepted into those programs. Is that, I'm trying to
I don't know that I would say they're not accepted into those programs because
they just wouldn't be considered a completer. And so in 2 of my former ISDs, you and I have spoken before, we had programs where students were exposed to just maybe 2 3-week segments in auto or 2 3-week segments in cosmetology or something to develop a particular skill, just not the entire 12 segments. And so in those instances, the students still had the access and accessibility, but they weren't considered the completers of completing all the 12 segments and taking the test.
That would be held against the program?
I don't think that's held against
the certification or whatever?
Well, if they're enrolled in the program and they're put into the data system and they don't meet the outcomes, then their achievement score is lower.
Right, so that's a disincentive to include them. Yeah, so, it's unfortunate. But you're saying, if you don't enroll them, if you just have them participate, is there a way for them to participate without them being formally enrolled? Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, that would be a local district decision or a local county technical campus decision. And we do have some programs across the state within transition that have programs that teach a smaller set of CTE standards, or they take more time teaching the certified nursing assistant standards to get there. So that would be a local by local decision on what they would allow and what they wouldn't allow. It wouldn't be about us with the allowability of it. Yeah.
The one out in, was it Plainwell or something? There's a program out there where.
MCTI.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's also a really nice transition center up in Kent.
Yeah. Is there anybody in Detroit, Oakland?
Out in the Thumb, I know that they're doing some work, but I'm down in Southeast Michigan, nothing comes to mind off the top of my head, but I know they're doing some innovative things. Sean Petrie was out in the Thumb.
Okay. Okay. That's too bad. I wish there was more, but yeah.
Any other questions or comments by board members? If not, law firm of Dr. and Dr., thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Last item on the Committee of the Whole agenda is presentation of the proposed standards for the preparation of teachers in middle grades and high school, professional knowledge and skills, English language arts, and mathematics. This set of standards would replace Michigan's current preparation standards for teachers of English and secondary mathematics and will inform program development and continuous improvement efforts at Michigan's educator preparation institutions. There will be a public comment period with approval of the standards to be requested at the June 9th, 2020 board meeting. Here to present to us this afternoon are Ms. Leah Breen, Director of the Office of Educator Excellence, Dr. Sean Cte, Education Consultant Manager, Office of Educator Excellence, Dr. Gina Garner, Higher Education Consultant, the Office of Educator Excellence, and Ms. Darcy McMahon, Higher Education Consultant in the Office of Educator Excellence. There is a little bit of a pattern in all of that. There will be a PowerPoint presentation. Welcome. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. We'll kick off with Leah to speak about some changes to our standards and why.
Right, so a reminder of why we are here reviewing new teacher preparation standards. This began with the certification changes back in 2018 to the new grade bands for teacher preparation, with candidates expected to exit out in 2025. We're now working on the preparation changes in an ongoing manner. You've already approved the early grade bands. We're here now with the 5, 9, and 7, 12 grade bands. And we are also simultaneously talking about changes to how those teachers will be placed. That public comment is expected to be released this week. As a reminder about appropriate placement in the old staffing system, teachers were appropriately placed when they were teaching in an area in which they were prepared, and that endorsement was listed on their certificate. They could also obtain additional flexibilities using permits, and down there in the corner you see our little logo that we use to signify the 4 separate parts of our certification system and how they're all linked. Under the new appropriate placement proposal in the new staffing system to which these standards are related, preparation and certification will no longer necessarily equal placement and flexibilities. So put simply, what is written on the certificate is not necessarily the only thing a teacher can teach under the new certification, preparation, and placement structure. They will also be appropriately placed when outside their area of preparation and certification in specific circumstances, and we will still have additional flexibilities with permits. And again, this will be released for public comment in February. Specifically, we believe Thursday is our goal. And now shifting back to today's focus, we're going to talk about the standards for the preparation of teachers in professional knowledge and skills, English language arts, and mathematics in middle grades 5, 9, and high school 7, 12.
All right, thank you so much. These sets of standards that you have before you represent a set of key shifts in educator preparation. Our previous generation of teacher preparation standards were inventories of knowledge, topics that a teacher should know, and we're very light on how exactly they should teach it. What was the effective practices in this? This new generation of teacher preparation standards puts the focus on contextualized instructional practices, integrating knowledge of content and knowledge of how to teach it into a cohesive system of preparation. There's a stronger focus on meeting the individual needs of students so that our teachers are prepared to work with and work effectively with the vast variety of students that they see in their classrooms. One vehicle for that is that this new generation of teacher preparation is required to be very clinically based, so that they're embedded ongoing clinical experiences throughout the program. Research shows that this increased focus and grounding in strong clinical experiences increases new teachers' ability and their retention. So the initial focus for the 5, 9, and 7, 12 grade bands are on 3 areas: professional knowledge and skills, the English language arts, and mathematics. These three areas were selected as the first place to go after completing the PK3 and the 3.6 for a variety of reasons. In the case of the professional, this set of standards addresses MDE priorities in the area of whole child and meeting the needs of the whole child. And when paired with all 5.9 and 7.12 endorsement areas, these define expectations for the foundational coursework that every teacher would get, regardless of their content area specialization. As for English language arts, this addresses a key MDE priority in literacy. The K-12 content standards were updated in this area as well as in math in 2010, whereas the teacher preparation standards were last updated in 2000. So we have a significant lag between what teachers have been expected to know and be able to do and what students have been expected to know and be able to do. We need to define the continuum of teacher preparation expectations across the whole PK-12 span, particularly in literacy, before we can build standards for the specialist roles in these areas. The Read by Grade 3 gives some urgency to updating the reading specialist credential, but we can't do that until we've defined the teacher competencies. Darcy wants to speak about mathematics.
And there were concerns with the former mathematics standards as well, especially typically content-heavy programs that didn't integrate. They had a lack of modeling best practice in teaching with those programs. They did not integrate as well. There was a silo approach, right? There are content standards and there are pedagogical standards, and often they happened in very different ways in very different parts of a student's program on campus. And then finally, that there really needed to be a focus on content for teaching as opposed to standards that might produce a mathematician. We are trying to produce mathematics teachers.
So some notes on the process. Who participated in this? We had multiple perspectives from a variety of stakeholders, 73 not including MDE participants, who represented all areas of our educator ecosystem, and geographic distribution in our state. They either worked directly on the core drafting team or submitted feedback in informal feedback mechanisms. The timeline that we worked on these, we began work on the literacy portion, the ELA portion in October 2018, right around when the PK3 and the 3.6 standards were approved by the state board. That was followed in November of 2018 by kicking off the mathematics. And then in January of 2019, we began the professional knowledge and skills. In all cases, stakeholders were convened to review existing Michigan standards and program requirements and expectations for teacher preparation in these areas, the Michigan K-12 academic standards, and as well as standards and other research from national organizations. The stakeholders in all cases deemed the current Michigan teacher preparation standards, again, those passed in 2000, to be insufficient for meeting the needs of today's students and meeting the academic rigor requirements of our K-12 standards, and opted for drafting new standards incorporating ideas from multiple sources, which are detailed in the introductory remarks to the standards.
So our first set of standards are professional knowledge and skills. We have 3 domains in professional knowledge and skills, and these domains are very reflective of the feedback that we have received over time in terms of what teachers are missing when they come out into the field, or what teachers need more development in when they come out into the field. And these 3 domains ended up being learner-centered supports that is part of the whole child, supporting social emotional needs, English learners, special education students, classroom management skills, and assessment literacy. Our second domain is ethics and professional growth. This includes ethical practice, ongoing professional development, and digital citizenship. And finally, strategic partnerships. that address community and school partnerships, family engagement, and collaboration within and outside of the school. The key areas for our professional standards are teacher practices that really range across all grade bands and classrooms. These are core practices that happen in classrooms, and they're critical across content areas. That's why these professional standards will be paired with every secondary content area. This is a step outside of how we've typically done secondary preparation. Typically, secondary preparation is in that area of content. The mathematics department prepares mathematics teachers. The physics department prepares physics teachers. We now, with these professional standards, situate professional preparation back in the School of Education so that all secondary teachers do receive that same professional preparation that we know elementary teachers do receive. These professional standards are expect clear preparation in all 3 domains based on these standards.
The English language arts preparation standards are organized into 13 broad categories. I mean, our term for this is domains, so you'll see L1 through L13. The first 4 listed on this slide, English language arts, learning environments, culturally responsive practices, curriculum design and assessment, and motivation and engagement, provide continuity with comparable domains in the PK3 and the 3.6 standards, which were passed in 2018. And so they build right on that. Accommodations and differentiated instruction, that section details competencies for recognizing signs of potential literacy-related disabilities such as dyslexia and ways to marshal support for students. And Foundations of English Language Arts encompasses several of the areas that were presented in more detail in the PK3 and 3.6 standards, including things like foundational skills, fluency, overall literacy, phonological awareness, things like this, reflecting an expectation for more integrated instruction in the older grade bands as the foundational skills are mastered and developed more in concert with other language arts skills. So it builds right off of what the younger teachers for the younger bands know. Some extensions of concepts unpacked in the PK3 and the 3.6, particularly in the 3.6 standards, vocabulary and language study that integrates competencies related to teaching of spelling, word study, elements of some foundational skills, syntax, and vocabulary. Literary and rhetorical analysis really deals with comprehension, but comprehension of literary texts and nonfiction texts. Composition also builds on the skills in the 3.6, as does the speaking and listening. The new domains that are introduced in the 5.9 and 7.12, new and digital literacies relating to digital citizenship and technology. And it deepens the language around non-print literacies and language arts skills of visual interpretation and representation that were spread throughout the 3.6 standards. So they're integrated more into a place. The literature domain focuses on the knowledge of texts, and it provides continuity to the previous English standards, which were largely based on knowing a lot of different texts, less so than how to teach those texts. And it extends into some dispositions and habits of mind related to literature, modeling being a lifelong reader for students, and being able to instill a love of reading in students instead of just focusing on, can you tell me who did what in this story? And then a section on professionalism. This highlights the unique opportunities that ELA teachers have to maintain currency in their field, emphasizing some Michigan assets and Michigan organizations where they can get that. Mathematics.
So in the mathematics standards, you can see here that we have categorized them into 4 domains, which bridge the gap between the pedagogical and the content. The pedagogical knowledge is knowledge and teaching or practices for teaching mathematics. Students as learners of mathematics really recognizing that it's very critical that we understand how our students learn and how they develop, understanding the social contexts of mathematics teaching and learning, and understanding mathematics concepts, practices, and dispositions and curriculum. One of the things that we felt very strongly about, that the stakeholders felt very strongly about in the development, was this breaking down that siloed approach. And so the diagram that you see on the screen here shows a Mobius strip in the center of those 4 domains, a Mobius strip triangle that can't be taken apart. It can't be divided. And that is to show how those 3, pedagogy, content, and disposition, are interwoven throughout all 4 of the domains. And speaking of pedagogy, we intended that to mean how we teach mathematics. So for an example, in the second domain, one of the standards reads, recognize the importance of eliciting and understanding student experiences and identity in shaping their mathematical thinking. And that was a dispositional kind of standard within that domain 2. So within each of those domains, there are pedagogical sorts of standards, content-based standards, and dispositional sorts of standards. And also that there would be a continued focus as former versions of standards on that deep understanding of content, but specifically content for teaching mathematics, which is also key in the elementary grade bands. And stakeholders were also very intentional about the order of the domains, choosing to put the content specific in domain D as opposed to domain A, where it had primacy of place in former sets of standards. So this outlines our process for the mathematics stakeholders group. The first step for us was to develop that framework around pedagogy, content, and disposition. Pedagogy referring to the ways of teaching mathematics, content to the what of teaching mathematics, and dispositions referring to the enacted beliefs and attitudes about mathematics. Mathematics teaching and mathematics learners that are really critical for mathematics teachers. Integration of these throughout leads to a more integrated program overall and a laser focus on critical knowledge and skills for teaching mathematics. Our step 2 was to identify critical focus areas that serve as themes across the standards. We developed 4 critical focus areas that cut throughout all of the standards. These include reasoning and proof, mathematical modeling, tools and technology, and an equity focus. And our third step in development was to determine the key content tasks. These tasks ensure that candidates are learning the content that's needed to support deep conceptual understanding. They're things that candidates must be able to do to develop their own understanding and develop understanding in students, and also help ensure that candidates have experience learning mathematics themselves according to best practices.
Okay, so the next steps, we will open public comment this Thursday. That public comment period will extend through April 5th of 2020, and we'll bring these back to the board for final presentation and adoption recommendation in the June 2020 meeting. Immediately following adoption, technical assistance for program revisions to our educator preparation institutions will follow from our team. And our ambassadors in the work, which we are people who help develop our standards. And for contact information, for myself, for Gina, and for Darcy, if you have any questions on the standards.
This is a very complex subject that you have distilled in the last 20 minutes. We appreciate that presentation. Thank you. There's a lot of there. President Albrecht.
So once these are finalized and passed, what is your timeline for implementation with the teacher prep institutions?
So as I mentioned in the beginning, we should see the first candidates exiting around 2025. Those will probably primarily be based on the earlier sets of standards that you've passed. So once these are approved in June, the programs have to resubmit, they have to readjust their programs, resubmit application to us. We have to review those before any candidates can even enter the programs as freshmen in their colleges and universities, maybe sometimes sophomores, but they have to be under a bulletin. So you won't see anybody exiting under these programs for several years unless they are exiting through an alternative route to certification program and they're testing into the endorsement.
But the higher education institutions will be working hard in the ensuing year to restructure based on these new standards.
And
Yes.
based on your experience with higher ed institutions, is that realistic? Because in my 20 years in higher ed, things don't work that fast.
We've been working with them as partners for this initiative for years. Since we started at the beginning, we've been partnering with them all along the path, so nothing here is surprising, and they're beginning to adjust programs already, even without finalized standards.
So if I could, they've gotten a head start on the process in anticipation of some movement in this area. Yeah.
And many have been dissatisfied with the existing certification standards and have been crafting their programs in this direction, still cognizant that the test that our candidates have to pass right now to become certified is based on these very, very old standards. So,
thank you. Mr. McMillan?
Where's the list of the stakeholders that participated in this?
Should be in the introduction to the standards.
Oh, okay. And so those will be, okay. Now, what if a higher ed institution decides not to teach some of the standards?
Well, frankly, their candidates would be at a disadvantage to getting licensed. The Michigan test for teacher certification will be based on these standards, and a candidate can only fail to a certain extent before they fail the whole test.
Okay, but you don't go in and say, okay, you're not teaching this standard, so we're going to shut you down or something, or?
Through accreditation. So they have to submit their programs to us for approval, and during the accreditation process, if they're not adhering to the programs that they're approved, that's reflected in their accreditation status.
So, okay. And then I guess I'd like to, okay, it said shift in education preparation, one of the slides. What's new is on page 7 or slide 7, 600 hours. Is that new, ongoing clinical experiences?
So we presented that to the board
2018.
And that is new. That shift was started prior to kind of accompanying the shift to the new teacher certification standards, but that's in place now for programs. The requirement for multi-varied and 600 hours of clinical experience with a gradual release of responsibility starting as soon, we hope, as soon as they enter the university with the EDU 100 program.
Was that student teaching or?
It's any experience involving children, so it starts with observation and culminates in student teaching.
Does it need to be in public, or can it be a private school?
It can be private school.
Okay.
And just to note, because I do think this is a shift, you're trying to get young people in programs in front of kids, with kids, interacting with kids, learning about kids, learning from kids early.
Yes.
And often. Yes. Not necessarily like they vote in Chicago, but ... And that's important because a lot of times in the, under current standards, you go through and you hit kids late. And it's only with student teaching that you realize, what am I doing here? Not good for you, not good for teachers, not good for teachers, not good for kids. It's a mess. So what you're doing is you're shoving that development process earlier for the prospective teachers. And it's so that 600 hours is analogous to precisely nothing that we currently do formally.
It is the first time we have formalized it, although we had institutions that were well they had implemented that within their programs before we ever got to it.
So if I am observing in my freshman year, that counts toward those 600 hours?
It can, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So on page 33 of the PDF, under C2, for math, understand power and privilege in the history of mathematics education. What exactly, I mean, I see the subpoints, but can you give me in a nutshell, what does that mean that, that a teacher must understand and a higher ed must teach so that they understand power and privilege in the history of mathematics education?
Darcy?
So we recognize that within mathematics, it is one of those gateway subjects, right? It is a gateway to success in many different careers, whether it's within math or some other career. And oftentimes, it is challenging for students of color, students of poverty, or in different, more rural, less experienced is to succeed as well. And it's important for us to realize as educators the role we play in perpetuating that situation. And so I think
this is pretty controversial. People end up attacking Caucasians because you're white, you're privileged, and it leads to a lot of division and a lot of, instead of uniting, it leads to a lot of dividing. I just find that surprising that something like that's in there, but okay. Moving on in mathematics, also on a little bit above that, it says that acknowledge the diversity, individual and group identities, including those whose learning experience and needs are different from their own, including both individual differences and group differences, including gender identity, sexual orientation. So how in math, how do they need to acknowledge the diversity of individual and group identities, particularly in their learning experiences and needs in math of gender identity and sexual orientation?
So there's a lot of research around the fact that female students perform academically below their male peers because of beliefs that are expressed in the classroom that women aren't good at math. And I think that's the kind of concept that we're talking about, making sure the dispositions of our educators are such that all children are afforded equal opportunity to learn.
This includes gender identity, gender expression, so a female that identifies as a male, how would that impact their math?
It shouldn't. That's the point of the standard.
But they have
shouldn't
to
be treated-
understand that it doesn't or that it might in order to
Correct.
be a teacher?
Yep, so teachers need to know how to work with every kind of student that's in their classroom to the best advantage of students so that they don't interfere with their learning. And that understands every type of student that we currently have.
And then in ELA 1G, I don't know about, ELA, not math, talks about, there's a lot of references to social justice, and I wasn't here, but I saw the video of some discussions that were here before I got on about social justice, and it is another loaded term. It means some to some people and some to another. So in ELA, it's 1G, cultivate dialogue across differences to promote social justice. What does that mean? Cultivate dialogue across differences to promote social justice.
About having frank and open conversations within the context of English language arts instruction. These standards are really about access and access to high quality curriculum and access to a curriculum and teaching that is relevant to the lives of the children who are being taught. The standard, the old-fashioned traditional way of English instruction largely focused on a single canon of literature that is largely white and male and written for adults and particularly elite adults.
What's that?
White and male are unjust, so you got to inject some justice and make sure that it's not white and male.
It's about making it accessible to all. So it's not taking everything and throwing it out because it's white and male, but it's creating space for lots of voices that are as valid in our classrooms.
White and male are unjust. Use now in ELA 2A, use knowledge of theories and research about social justice. Well-prepared beginning teachers of English language arts will be able to use knowledge of theories and research about social justice. So that's the same thing, same kind of thing you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Number 34, page 34, C3B talks about enact ethical practice of advocacy. Wait a minute, let's see, C3E. Recognize their responsibility to stand up to exclusion, prejudice, and injustice of students in the learning of meaningful and robust mathematics. So is that the same kind of thing?
Yes,
But
that
what
one-
kind of injustice of students?
That one's often.
Yeah, so a great example of that might be underrepresentation of certain populations of students in AP coursework, and making sure as a teacher that you know who is being referred for AP coursework and making it accessible to all students.
Okay. I've only touched the tip of the iceberg on things that I think can have multiple meanings and, can be, I don't know, used again to try to divide. And I know some people would say in the right context it might be useful, but I think that this is being used to really push some kind of a political agenda. I really want to see the list. I don't know that I saw the list of all the, okay, here they are. So, I mean, of all these, was everybody on here, did they all approve of the final draft?
Yes.
There was no dissension?
Correct.
And how was this list determined?
We have a procedure that we use to get representation from across regional populations, perspectives, as it's appropriate to the content. So we reach out from all of our stakeholders from all regions of our state.
Is there anybody from Hillsdale, their education, teacher prep area?
Pardon me?
I don't see anybody from Hillsdale.
Hillsdale no longer has an approved teacher preparation program.
Yeah, that's right. Ways to exclude them. All right. So yeah, okay.
Dr. Pugh.
I was just, in response to some of Tom's concerns, when you look at privilege, some of the sessions that I've attended, it's not just a white male who's going to be privileged, but there are exercises that you go through where I recognize my privilege. And so it's not just about color and gender, but there are other things that may privilege me. I mean, we could look at backgrounds. I mean, my parents may have been educated, yours may not. I may have political affiliation, someone else may not. So those are some of the things that you also look at to see what causes inequities. And then how do we address those? Because we constantly look at these disparities, but what drives those disparities is what we're trying to get at. I don't know if that helps any.
Ms. Vecto. Thank you, Dr. Pugh.
I think that's good to look deeper at the standards. The way I and I can see what does this have to do with mathematics or whatever, but when it comes to the issue of social justice, I think the world is unjust in the amount of poverty that we have, the amount of disadvantages that we have. I think the term it means to me that it gives people education is a leveler. Education, and I'm looking at this Nelson Mandela quote, education is the most powerful weapon we can use to change the world. I mean, but it's a measure of creating equality, which I think we can all agree, everyone should have an equal opportunity to be the best they can be. And it shouldn't be because you had rich parents or because you know, you're politically connected. It should be, everybody should have that opportunity. So I think education and teachers have to not be conscious and not to sort of reinforce stereotypes that I think they might not be aware of. Some teachers, not, a lot of teachers are aware and deal with them. I skipped, I moved ahead and skipped grades in mathematics, and I was the only girl I had teachers, thank God, a male teacher who kept telling me, "Why are you in this class? What are you doing here?" And it was really hard to overcome. Dealing with that. And I think, when I got a female teacher who was, mentored me and encouraged me, and so I think it can happen, and I think it's just a matter of not necessarily creating division, but recognizing that there is already division, and how do you overcome that division to give everybody an equal shot? And that's what I think social justice is, making sure everyone has an equal shot.
Dr. Pritchett. Thank you very much, Ms. Vector.
Thank you. I'm not going to speak for Dr. Rice. I'm certainly not going to speak for Kara, but I can speak for the education that I received when I was becoming a secondary social studies teacher. And I commend everybody on the committee and MDE for taking this step generally, because you are right. We knew our content very, very well. We did not understand in all instances the audience to which we were teaching, and all of the different developmental challenges they might have been facing, or challenges facing across the board. These are very, very comprehensive, and there may be some in there that, people are going to sit and go, well, why would that be in there? But the examples that have been brought up, I think, are valid. So I just wanted to say that you're certainly on the right track, because they are students first, and it was content second. But the joke in high schools is we're content teachers, and kids should love our content. So,
I have another question.
Please.
So yeah, and following up on what Cassandra has said about, what we're demanding of our higher ed institutions and our teacher prep institutions. What I hear is that there's like, it's a constant grind to keep up with all the demands and to make sure the curriculum is aligning, and also because a lot of these schools, because of the depleted enrollment, are also depleted in resources because of the tuition money. And so it can be a real struggle to make sure they have the right things in place to do all the things they're supposed to do. So I'm concerned about that, and if that's been recognized, and sort of ways to support the higher ed teacher prep institutions on those things. Let's see, there was another point, and I forgot what it was. But anyway, but if you could speak to that, like, what are we doing to support, given the depleted resources in many of our, what can we do?
Yeah, I think, it's similar to K-12 districts where new sets of standards pose challenges based on the size, the type, the district, the kinds of experiences, the kind of resources that you have. So our institutions vary along their breadth and depth of how difficult this kind of transition will be. So what are we doing? We're talking to them, we're spending time with them, we're making sure they're part of the decision-making process. We meet with them, the deans and directors, the teacher certification officers quarterly. We just met with them last week. Talked about how these were going to the board, talked about how they were doing in the transition, listened to the challenges that they're facing. Some of it is getting them in a room together to talk through what successes some of them are having in the transition so others can hear it, other challenges and solutions, and being a facilitator of that work. It's hard. This is a big shift for our state. We believe it's the right direction. It should profoundly change the way that we are supporting students in classrooms. And I think they're on board in general terms with that shift. The actual getting the transition done is challenging. So we're just trying to be supportive. Everybody here, except for me, is from a higher education background. So they speak the language and are able to have conversations about implementation, which is really helpful as well, that we have a team of folks that came out of the field.
I remembered for my other question.
Thank you.
So one is that, how does this affect the teacher shortage in that? Will it, because I know one of the things that I've heard some of them doing, like reducing their courses to 2 credits in order to hit all the subject areas they're supposed to hit and try to condense the classes so that they can get out in 4 years and constantly streamlining, but yet we're asking them to do the professional development, which I think is good, but it just, it seems a bit, if they're trying to get the students out quicker to get them into the field, I just see it as being really a challenge to try to do all those things, and then how it affects the folks who actually teach the classes and increasing their course loads, because we've got many faculty. But so that's necessarily you don't have to respond to. It's just something I've seen that they're struggling with how to meet all the demands and get the students out in 4 years. The other is when the professional development, how much is special ed taught for teachers so that they're prepared to teach like inclusive classrooms? They can teach kids with different disabilities.
Yeah, so nothing we are presenting on the new certification structure changes the way that we're preparing our special education teachers.
No, I'm talking general ed. I'm on general ed taught and special ed.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Do you want to speak to that? I misunderstood.
The professional standards were created exactly to meet that demand. A lot of our elementary programs may have included some addressing the needs of special ed students, but this very specifically makes sure the professional standards in both the PK 336 and then the 59712 very specifically address the needs of special ed learners, of at-risk learners. And so there are a couple of different standards in there that indicate that these professional preparation programs need to make sure they're incorporating that into all programs.
I believe most of the hours of special ed are in general ed classes anyway.
Correct. Correct. Mm-hmm.
Those professional standards also will be applied to our alternative route candidates. That is one of the reasons they were created, is that while our alternative route candidates were asked to take content area tests and had a major or a specialty in content area, they didn't have to demonstrate knowledge of the professional practices needed of all teachers to be good stewards to children. So understanding their audience and their challenges, as Dr. Pritchett stated. And so these standards and the assessment that goes with it should also provide us important information about teachers through alternative routes.
Ms. Lockheed.
As someone who is maybe going to work with these, I don't know if I'll still be teaching, but I mentor. I have student teachers all the time. My colleagues and I are already, not everywhere, not everyone, but we are coming to these realizations across the state and the country that we need to be better about meeting the needs of all of our learners, no matter where they're coming from, no matter their identities. And so having our student teachers come to us with some of this already in their learning is going to make my job easier with them as well, because they've already started the journey, and then I can help them continue on. So it's really, to me, this looks like a way for higher ed to catch up to what K-12 has been trying to do with teachers. I've been reading and researching and talking and going to trainings, trying to be a better teacher for all of my students. And so I think this is going to be better for student teachers as well.
Thank you for sharing that. Ms. Ramos-Montini.
Yeah. You know, I had student teachers throughout my 36 and a half years from many different universities. And so there were many of them, they were totally scared once they got into the classroom. It's very different learning about how you're going to teach, but it's another lesson when you're in front of all these students. And so many of them wanted to quit. They had never been out of the environment of their school or their environment, period. So if you want to be a teacher, you're going to have to learn, and I'm glad that, more of these words that are, not accepted by everyone, but they're necessary words because we have such an array of students that come before us. So I think we're in the right track.
Thank you for sharing that. Any other thoughts by any other board member? If not, if I could just share two additional thoughts. I think the spirit of the draft standards is to be more inclusive, not to be divisive, but to rather be more inclusive, and to make sure that all students are included and feel included, that they don't feel implicitly excluded. The way women in many cases have felt excluded, or girls have felt excluded from STEM courses over a period of years by the inadvertent, or perhaps in some cases the deliberate actions of their teachers, suggesting somehow that they are incapable inherently to handle science, technology, engineering, mathematics, completely unproven. But that doesn't stop people from exuding that, and from girls, young women, from responding to that. And I think the effort here is to make sure that we don't inadvertently give off that sort of feeling to our young people, and that begins to affect what they do in their life choices. The other thing with respect to literature, no one's suggesting that any literature is particularly invalid. It is simply to say that at some point in our lives, we should read Cien Años de Soledad by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. We should read at some point in our education Paul Laurence Dunbar, or Zora Neale Hurston, or Langston Hughes, or Gwendolyn Brooks, or Pablo Neruda, or Nikki Giovanni, or Alice Walker, or Margaret Walker, or Toni Morrison, or Maya Angelou, or Miri Baraka, or James Baldwin, or Frantz Fanon, who wrote Peau Noire, Masque Blanc. And you don't have to read it in the original. You can read it in the translated form. The point is that there's all this wonderful literature by all these wonderful authors, and so we ought not to be excluding implicitly in the way in which we do our work. We should be inclusive. And that's the spirit of the standards as put forward. Perhaps we could look at language that better gets at that concept of inclusiveness, because we don't want to be inadvertently repellent in our language. But that is nonetheless, I think, the spirit of what's put forward to today.
I like that word, spirit.
Thank you. Anything more for the good of the group? No? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
May I please have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular and committee of the whole meeting of January 14th, 2020?
So moved.
Dr. Pritchett, seconded by Ms. Ramos-Montini. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Report of the president.
I really do not have much report other than to say thank you to everyone who took the time to respond to the top 10 and 10 survey results. And also for those, the conversation we just had, I would encourage you, if you do have concerns about the proposed standards, to please take advantage of the public comment period and let your thoughts be known. Or if you are, on the other hand, very supportive, please let your thoughts be known as well, because that's how we improve upon the documents before us. So thank you.
Thank you. Report of the State Superintendent. Thank you to all who provided public comment today, to all who presented today, to all who completed the top 10 survey, and to all who distributed the survey. You are helping us build a better strategic education plan, and by extension, better schools for our 1.5 million public school children. We are beginning a student growth committee, as we said we would in the fall when we were doing our A through F work. Mr. McMillan and Dr. Pritchett will be serving on the committee, which will also include ISD and LEA representatives, as well as MDE staff. More on this moving forward. We've also begun a committee on the teacher shortage that includes representatives from education associations, teacher unions, higher education, MDE, and the governor's office. We're exploring ways to address the teacher shortage that both require and do not require legislative action. As the board saw today, the teacher shortage is widely viewed to be a major problem facing Michigan public schools. And finally, to our governor's executive recommendation, Governor Gretchen Whitmer's executive recommendation for the fiscal year 21 state school budget sets the positive direction for education moving forward. Different kids have different needs have different costs. The governor's recommended budget priorities reflect those realities by proposing additional funding for special needs children, low-income students or economically disadvantaged students, and English language learners. Governor Whitmer's budget includes an additional $60 million for special needs children, an additional $60 million for economically disadvantaged children, an additional $5 million for English language learners. I'm excited that the governor's budget recognizes the needs of all children and provides some of the extra funding that is needed to help all children succeed. 6 separate studies in 6 years have concluded that Michigan's school funding plan does not differentiate its funding and needs to differentiate its funding to meet the instructional needs of specific, bless you, populations of students. These studies include, but aren't limited to, then Lieutenant Governor's Special Education Study in 2017, the School Finance Research Collaborative Study, the state's most extensive school funding study in 2018, the Michigan State University Study in 2019, Go Green, and the recently released Ed Trust Midwest Study. There's a theme here, 6 studies, 6 years. They've all said the same thing. Different kids have different needs have different costs, and we aren't getting it done from a funding perspective in the state of Michigan. That's not just my opinion, although it is my opinion. It's 6 studies in 6 years on the same issue. In early childhood education, the governor's budget recommends a $42 million increase to expand the number of Great Start Readiness Program pre-kindergarten students by 5,000, a $27 million increase in federal child care funds by extending family eligibility from 130% of the federal poverty limit to 150% the federal poverty level. That would increase the number of young people served by 5,900. $35.5 million increase to expand the per pupil revenue associated with 2 half-day slots of preschool, 2 half-day slots, making a full-day pre-kindergarten program from $7,250 to the minimum foundation allowance, or the new minimum foundation allowance under this budget of $83.36. You'll note that the increase in GSRP and the increase in child care, those are not mandatory at all. Those are subject to individual families' determinations about individual families' needs. So nobody's being required to do the child care, nobody's required to do the GSRP, but it's available for families who couldn't otherwise have had those opportunities. Michigan is only board, and you may recall this from October, Michigan is one of only 3 states in the nation that meets all the quality benchmarks of the National Institute for Early Education Research. Michigan needs to keep investing in its high-quality early education program. We have the highest quality early childhood education system nationally, and we need to open that door to more children. Our programs benefit our children and pay positive dividends when they enter our K-12 system. There's a 50-year research base that supports early childhood programs in Michigan, which dates back to the Ypsilanti Perry Preschool Project in the 1960s. I could have been a part of that preschool study, for goodness sakes, it's so old. It's time to stop talking and to start funding GSRP for all eligible children in the state. Again, mom or dad, grandma or grandpa, who's ever responsible for little Mikey can make the determination of whether little Mikey needs to be in the program, but little Mikey ought not to be precluded from the program because of his or her income. In terms of supporting Michigan's educators, the governor's budget recommendation would also provide needed support to Michigan's educators. There's a one-time $25 million proposal to reimburse teachers for out-of-pocket expenses to purchase school supplies for their classrooms, $3 million for professional development in the literacy essentials. Additionally, the executive budget recommendation would include proposals to help address the growing teacher shortage in Michigan. With an appropriation of $1.5 million, school districts would be able to develop teacher cadet programs to encourage students to consider the teaching profession. There are already teacher cadet programs that exist. This would help us expand those teacher cadet programs. There's also a $180,000 budget request to help improve recruitment and retention of teachers in districts that are struggling academically, to inform and educate districts across the state and the public, not to inform the districts, but rather about the public about the teacher shortage, and to increase the number of qualified educators in the state. Finally, per pupil funding would increase under this budget with a 1.5x formula. Overall spending would increase $290 million under the governor's proposal in per pupil funding. Lowest funded districts would have an increase of $225 per pupil. The highest funding districts, an increase of $150 per pupil. State legislature will now consider the governor's executive budget recommendations as it deliberates on a consensus budget that must be passed by June 30th, 2020. I can't help contrasting that very strong, very positive set of increases in public school funding with the federal budget recommendation. The president's budget recently released would reduce the U.S. Department of Education budget by $5.6 billion, or 8%, from current year appropriations. Federal education budget for Michigan would be reduced by $54.5 million, or 4.6%. The budget would consolidate 29 formula and competitive federal grants programs, including Title I, into a $19.4 million block grant. That block grant would be a smaller block in total than would the gestalt of individual programs that currently exist. We're not supportive of this budget. Quite frankly, we're not supportive of across-the-board budget cuts in public education. There are some programs that are certainly less impactful than others, and if they need to be reduced or eliminated, that's certainly understandable. But net cuts to public education, which is already underfunded, is not something that we're supportive of. That concludes my report for the day, board. And now we move on to something more interesting and more cheery, the report of the Michigan Teacher of the Year and the Region 4 Teacher of the Year. Ms. Kara Lougheed is our 2019-2020 Michigan Teacher of the Year. She will present her report. She is, as you may recall, board, an English language arts and history teacher at Stony Creek High School and Rochester Community Schools. And she is joined by Jeremy Windsor, a Windsor almost completely, but for the absence of a D. Mr. Windsor teaches earth science, biology, and environmental science at Fulton Middle School, High School in Middleton, Michigan. Welcome.
All right. So one of the things that I do, you guys know this, is I do school visits. And what I've been trying to do, or what is a goal for me, is I would like to see all the regional teachers of the year. I would like to visit them if I can. And so I went to see Jess, who you all met, Jess Matthews. You met her a few months ago. She came to visit. I think she was at the Saginaw one with me, because she does something called Activism Day at Carmen Ainsworth. And the Activism Day was on January 17th. I couldn't go because I had another commitment. So I went the day before, and it was actually pretty neat because I got to talk to the kids about their projects. It's her senior English class, and it incorporates a lot of student choice and there's an authentic audience. I'll show you in just a minute. And their projects address injustice and inequity. And the reason I really wanted to see it is because my own seniors do a similar project with just a different outcome. like a different structure to it. So I wanted to see hers so that maybe we could in the future work together once I'm back in the classroom. Flint isn't that far from Rochester, and I'm hoping maybe we can do something together. So here are just a couple of examples of what her kids do for Activism Day. And then the audience is students and teachers from anywhere in the building can come and hear their presentations, which gives them a more authentic audience. And you can see they chose things that were pretty personal for them, or things that they wanted to learn more about, or in the case of the Black Lives Matter, things they felt their community needed to learn more about. These are the same types of topics that my students try to tackle, but they don't always tackle it in the same way because Rochester is not the same clientele and not the same students as in Flint. And so I want to give them an opportunity to kind of see how it can present it in a different way. Here's a couple more. And then you can see the awards that they were given: Game Changer, Best in Show. She has a lot of different categories that they can win. And I really enjoyed being there and talking to the students about their projects and why they chose them and what they were going to say. And Activism Day just keeps growing. She's been doing it for about 4 years now. And it's once a semester because senior English, just like at my school, is a one-semester course, senior composition. And so I just really wanted to highlight what she was doing because it's pretty unique. And I feel like giving kids a chance to have their voices heard and do research on something that matters to them and then talk about what changes they would like to see in their worlds is really the best thing that teachers could possibly do for kids. That's the kind of teacher I would like to be, and that's the kind of teacher Jess is, and that's the kind of teacher that this guy is too. So just to kind of summarize it, my students do something similar and her students do, so we would like to try to get together and do some collaboration. Being the teacher of the year has given me so many opportunities to see classrooms that this was just another day for me, which has been so unique and wonderful and really just opened my mind to possibilities that I hadn't considered before. So I just wanted to share that with you. And I know since you'd already met Jess, it would be familiar. A couple other exciting things I just want to tell you about. I just got back from Washington, D.C. on Sunday, where I was given the NEA Foundation Award of Excellence. Won per state, and so I got to get up and accept an award. It was very exciting. I'll have some pictures for you next month. And then tomorrow I leave for California, where I get to meet all the other state teachers of the year. And we're sponsored by Google. Well, sponsored by the CCSSO, but Google is hosting us. So I guess I get to go to Google and do Google things. I don't know. But I'm very excited. So I'll bring back some pictures and share with you that experience next month. So I'm going to hand it over to Jeremy.
All right. I want to thank you all for this opportunity to present to you and talk to you a little bit about myself and our district. I think it is important to recognize right now, though, that what you see sitting here is not everything that has occurred in order to talk about these programs. There are a lot of people that have put time and effort into the programs that we've developed at Fulton Schools. And our programs have actually spread throughout the state, actually throughout the nation for some things. And so I would be remiss if I sat here and I said, this is me. This is really about a lot of other people that spend a substantial amount of time to make what was best for kids. So I am the Region 4 Educator of the Year. I am also sitting here on behalf of the Michigan Farm Bureau as the Agricultural Educator of the Year for the year. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple of programs that we run. There's some other things that we do for teacher professional development, but I kind of get into what each of those things are. I'm a graduate of Central Michigan University, where I got my undergrad in secondary education with an emphasis in earth and space science and a minor in biology. So I get an opportunity to talk about science, and you may or may not be excited about that. I love science, so I'm going to take a little time to talk about it. I have lots of leadership roles. There's really not a lot of sense in me spending a lot of time on all of the different leadership roles that I undertake. One of them I'm going to talk about is our Salmon in the Classroom program that we run at our district. I'm also a co-director for the Beaver Island Institute, which is a professional development that we run up on CMU's biological station. Again, Michigan Ag Educator of the Year. My students actually are in Fulton schools, but I live in the Saranac community, so I've done a number of things in the Saranac school as well, with implementation of the next generation science standards, which are now the Michigan science standards, and then some things with youth athletics as well. So I put a lot of pictures on here. I was doing my very best not to overwhelm everyone with pictures, but I think they do a really good job of telling the story of what some of the things are that I would have in my classroom. As far as passions and beliefs, I love inquiry in my science classroom. I love getting my kids engaged through just being curious. Instead of putting that whole lesson plan together where like the lab is the reinforcer, rather the lab in my classroom becomes the beginning of how I would instruct. And we would get together in something very similar to what you see here. I call them our board meetings. And our students oftentimes develop models or representations of their understanding of what occurred in a lab. And I will specifically give them the prompt to use pictures, diagrams, graphs, words, any way to represent your understanding of what you observed, and then we're going to meet on it. And we're going to talk together, and we're going to do many of the same things that you saw today in the board meeting, where there's questioning and looking at data and analyzing that data and interpreting it. That's really what I'm trying to get my students to do on a day-to-day basis. Some of the different projects that I'm also part of are Rainbow Lake project. This is something that's kind of getting off the ground right now. We're doing some work with fisheries research in Rainbow Lake in Gratiot County. We're looking at the possibility of an entire field research project. I've got one student that's taking on the project as a whole, and we're in the process of working with the DNR to use fyke nets for trapping and trying to identify the fish species, the population that exists in there, which then will be used as information to go to the Lake Association Board that then they can use for some of their fish stocking and some of their lake analysis as well. So that's been kind of a cool project that's in the process. We do a lot with aquaculture at Fulton schools. Again, salmon in the classroom, that's something we do in the 8th grade. And then once we get into 9th grade, we've blended that into learning opportunities in the greenhouse with raising rainbow trout. And so we use aquaponics as a tool for learning about how there's system inputs and outputs, and there's matter and energy that flow through systems. And so really what we're trying to do is use it as an umbrella for understanding all of the content expectations in science. And maybe my big point here is that school systems should build the problem solvers of the future. We have lots of problems that we are going to need to solve, and we want to create a culture of collaboration where our students are discovering along the way, and ultimately we are the scientists. So those two projects, nope, maybe we're missing a slide.
Yeah, is that it?
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, that's it right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Here, I'll open it back up for you.
Maybe not.
For some reason, it won't come up.
We'll have technical difficulties
You
right
can
now.
tell them about your project, though. It's really cool.
So the two projects I'm going to talk about, first of all, our greenhouse at Fulton Schools. Initially, we had some community members that really wanted FFA in our district. But being the small school that we are, it was really difficult to really enact
Tell us
an
what FFA
program.
is.
What's that?
Say it again. No, just define the acronym.
Future Farmers of America.
Future
I
Farmers
used
of
to
America.
live in
Yes,
Kentucky.
FFA. I'm sorry.
There you
Went
go.
to high
What,
school.
Yes.
what he said.
Future Farmers of America. So a career tech program in agriculture.
That's the last one.
And so what we were trying to do was trying to get these programs inside of our general education curriculum, because it really wasn't feasible for us in a really small district to just bring the entire program. And so I went to our local community foundation, wrote an initial grant for a little bit under $10,000, and we were awarded the grant. We then realized that what we were planning on building would maybe not be as feasible as we initially had thought. And so I went back to the community and some of the community supports and asked for some assistance. And the community came behind us with total amounts nearing around $100,000 after we'd gotten some funding from the district as well to construct a greenhouse. And so we ended up getting the community really involved in that process, in building the greenhouse. Myself, my brother, and a couple of the people that were on our maintenance department, we spent a couple of hours a day at the end of the day through my prep period, and a couple hours after the end of the day actually constructing, because we had run out of funds. My brother is a youth pastor at the local church, and the church had donated time for him to be able to come and help. So we constructed the entire greenhouse in about a 3-month period of time, and it's beautiful, 30 by 60 building, polycarbonate sided. I think maybe you need to see it to have the appreciation for it. I would love for all of you to come visit. Another project, our Salmon in the Classroom program, we raise salmon over the course of the school year. We release those salmon at the end of the school year, and we collaborate with the Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, not the DEQ anymore. I have to mentally change that acronym. But we partner with them and the Michigan Sea Grant to release our fish. We do an entire fish study in Hubbardston, which is about 30 minutes north of here. Again, I would love to invite all of you to come observe that. Our release day this year is April 29th, with a backup day of May 13th. And so our kids kind of celebrate and become citizen scientists for the day. They release their fish and do a whole water quality analysis and environmental workup of Fish Creek right in Hubbardston, Michigan.
Thank you very much. That was very, very interesting.
Very interesting.
I'm so tempted to say it was fishy. Oh, I just did. So board members, thoughts? Expressions?
Very awesome, very awesome.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Give them a big round of applause. Next item on today's agenda is adoption of resolution in support of autism awareness. Last month, the State Board of Education received a presentation from the Xavier DeGroat Autism Foundation. Mr. DeGroat asked the board to consider adopting a resolution on autism awareness. The board is being asked today to adopt that resolution. May I please have a motion to approve the resolution in support of autism awareness?
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Fecto, supported by Mr. McMillan. Is there any discussion? President Aldrich.
So I thought Xavier did a fantastic job, and I'm really glad that he came and he presented before us. I personally have, it gives me pause when we name individuals or specific organizations in resolutions, because there's a lot of organizations that are doing fantastic work around autism, and I don't want to be exclusionary of those. And so I'm a little concerned about the last whereas, because I think if this is timeless, then 20 years from now, no one's going to have any idea why this section is in here. But also because I just fear that it's excluding all the other organizations that are doing such great work. So it's my 2 cents.
So what do you recommend as a friendly amendment?
Well, either remove it, or just talk about foundations are working to create and promote opportunities for people with autism through advocacy.
Okay. All right, so I saw a head bob from Ms. Fecto. The idea of a friendly amendment, many foundations are working to create and promote. Board is comfortable with that as a friendly amendment?
I would also remove the reference to Xavier in the first sentence. Otherwise, it's not going to make any sense.
So it would be whereas
many foundations are working to create and promote opportunities.
We're keeping the focus on autism rather than any individual person.
Right.
Okay. Any objection to that as a friendly amendment?
What if they're all foundations? Maybe
Organizations?
Yeah, organizations.
That's fine.
Friendly amendment to the friendly amendment. Do I hear any objections to the friendly amendment to the friendly amendment?
Well, you need to make sure as the maker and the seconder agree to it.
Fair enough.
So I will.
So the seconder is comfortable. Is the maker comfortable?
Sure.
As it were? Okay, there you go. Hearing no objections, we're voting on the amended resolution. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next item on today's agenda is state and federal legislative update. Ms. Lupe Ramos-Montini, Chairperson of the Board's Legislative Committee, will you please provide your report?
Okay, does everybody have a copy?
They will in a second.
Oh,
Thank you.
Associations.
Yeah.
Oh, he said organizations.
So, do they already have something?
No, well,
Oh,
maybe,
looks
yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
Now we do.
Okay, everybody has a copy.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff.
Pretty good. Okay, the Legislative Committee is composed of Lupe Ramos-Montini as the chairperson, Dr. Judy Pritchard, the co-chair, and a member, Honorable Nikki Snyder. And our Michigan Department of Education liaisons are Marty Eckley, Caroline Latham, Stephen DeGrow, Marilyn Snyder, and at this last meeting, Superintendent Michael Rice was our guest. We met here at the HANA building on Tuesday, January the 28th, 2020, and it was a very short meeting, but it was a very productive meeting. And the next meeting will be on February the 25th, 2020 at 1 p.m. Okay, so you see our goals, and we have tried to continue being proactive as we continue getting involved, getting engaged with the legislation that's being presented before us. I would like us to go to page 6 for a second, please. And that's where the state board members have given us their priorities. Now, these priorities were formalized in 2019. So I would like for all of us to look at your particular name and what you have under your name. And if there's any other topics, any other issues that you would like to include, I would appreciate you sending that to me and Marty, so we can include that in and update this list. And if you notice, Dr. Pamela Pugh, you have been advocating anything that has to do with water. So this time around, there's a lot of bills that are being proposed concerning the water safety and the water standards in our state. Okay, Marty?
Thank you, Lupe. I had an 80-slide PowerPoint presentation ready, but apparently there's technical difficulty, so you'll be spared that. So we discussed in the committee, of course, the fact that the budget was going to be coming, in which Dr. Rice did a great job explaining what is in the governor's executive recommendation. And attached is a document that was sent to every member last week. We printed it off and attached it to the to your agenda today for your hard copy reference. There were a few bills that we did discuss at the legislative committee. One was 5357 that would eliminate the requirement that a reporting unit pay unfunded actuarial accrued liability. And that bill was referred to the House Education Committee. Not much discussion on that. The Senate Bill 668 is a school meals bill introduced by Senator Ananek to provide for certain requirements related to pupils who cannot pay for a school meal or who owe school meal debt. Basically what it does is it would prohibit school districts from quote-unquote lunch shaming students who may have overdrawn accounts. And I might add that in the governor's executive budget, she added $1 million to help schools pay for these unfunded accounts. I'm not sure how that is all going to work out, but she did put money in the budget for that, so to her credit. And then there was a set of bills based on drinking water, PFAS, childhood lead poisoning. Those bills are all in the House, and I don't believe they've gotten a hearing yet. So like Lupe said, Ms. Ramos Martini said that it was a fairly quick meeting, but that we are addressing the priorities and we are keeping track of the priorities of members legislatively.
Okay, now, if you look at page 3, changes in the Michigan Merit Curriculum, one of the items in that bill that was very concerning, especially to the Chinese school that came before us, was the fact that the requirement for foreign language was eliminated, was deleted. And so that's troublesome. And I remember when they reported on the, one of the reports, I think it was in early childhood, and when they talked about the earlier you're supposed to talk to them because they acquire different languages as they mature in their development, even before they talk. So languages are very, very much of importance. So I'm, of course, as a bilingual individual, I'm very disappointed that this legislators think that it's important to eliminate foreign languages. Remember, we're the only country, I think, in the whole wide world that does not appreciate languages as an intentional tool for people to acquire. I know that my I have relatives in Europe. Montigny, that's French, right? Okay, so all of my relatives in France, they all can speak 3 and 4 languages, and fluent, very fluent. So it is really unique when your brain can switch from one language to the other. And if you haven't had that opportunity to experience that, I would encourage everybody to learn another language because it's really potent. Okay, so if I read in Caroline's notes that she sent to us, this changes are in their 3rd reading. Or they have passed already.
They have not passed.
They have passed, but they're in their 3rd reading, so most likely they will be passed. And another one is that there's other things that are other legislators are proposing, and they're even more critical because they're eliminating physical education and other things that our students need. Can you imagine not having physical education when you were going to school? Our bodies need it, our brains need it. It's something that shouldn't be eliminated. But so we'll keep an eye on that. New developments on the changes of the Michigan Merit Curriculum. And I think those are the thoughts that I had that I wanted to highlight. Now, one of the questions that I do have with the governor's proposed budget, what item in this document shows the money that she's putting early childhood?
In the first couple pages of the document, I will see.
Is it in the 27 million for child development and care?
Yes,
No, the child development and care would be separate and distinct.
That's something else, right?
Right here. Second page.
Oh, yes.
Go ahead, Ms. Johnson, if you could help us out.
Well, I just wanted to, so one, on the budget website, there's also a set of education briefings, and there's a whole, there's 2 separate one-pagers that goes into great detail about the governor's proposal around GSRP, and then one for CDC, which is child development and care. But the 2 bullets are, as we pointed.
Highlighted.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I brought that up because that's a very, very important allocation that she has made, and I want the public to know very specifically that we in the department think that's very, very important, and so does the governor, and so us as a population should see the value of early childhood. In the video, it was short but to the point, precise and concise, and to the point as to how it, and even if I hate to say it, but it's the truth, that the students of color, the children of color are the ones that are stay behind, and then they get into middle school, and they're so behind, they leave school, they're dropouts. So we have to do something, and I'm glad the governor has allocated a big chunk of money, and I hope that this proposed budget does take flight and it comes to pass. So with that, any questions from the board members? Still? Oh,
Ms. Hector.
Oh, okay. So, I wanted to add, it's not just phys ed, it's also health, that they would make not
Yes, exactly.
optional, which I think health is also critically important to have kids learn about. But I was alerted that today there was Senate Bill 675 was, I don't know if it was introduced, but it would change the revised school code to allow for alternative teaching certification for special education, which had, although there's been alternative teaching certification, it excluded special education. And now it's being proposed by Chair Thies, is that how you say it? Thies?
Nice.
To eliminate that, and I have some concerns about it, and I'm being told it it has more legs, or it has, maybe because the chair is proposing it, I'm not quite sure, but I'm not sure if you know any of the results of the I know you were here, if anybody
Caroline.
had saw what the discussion was today, and
Caroline went to committee, if you wanted to.
okay, what was discussed, and was there any
Action.
parameters put on special education or rules?
Representative Brown testified in support, answered a number of questions from community members, and then also a person that works for Brand Community School and the rest were just cards that were submitted. So in support were Chris Glass from
Tri-County.
West Michigan Talent Triangle.
West Michigan Talent Triangle. Yeah, he's from Grand Rapids area.
Yeah, we can email you a complete list. Yeah, it was mostly the representative presented and answered questions from the committee. The parameters on the programming would be that it's up to the state superintendent and the Department of Education to set up offer the programming and what would be required for teachers to complete the programming. The bill itself lists minimum number of requirements, but the department has the practice to what's outlined in the state law.
My concern is that, especially high needs populations, and I know there's a real need to have special education teachers. I'm not sure who Teachers for Tomorrow are, where they're from, how they're funded. Did you know anything about it?
It's a for-profit company, but actually, as the representative from the company testified today, there is every $245 to apply and become a participant in the program, but then you don't pay tuition until you're actually placed in a position within a school, which hiring is completely up to the district at that point. And then that person would go through the programming and fulfill all the requirements that are set forth by.
So Teachers for Tomorrow would financially benefit?
Teachers of Tomorrow.
Teachers of Tomorrow would financially benefit? So they have a vested interest in getting it passed.
It says it's funded by the New York State Education Department.
I think there's a different one
Okay.
in several states.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
there's one specific to Michigan.
Yeah, so, as a mother of special ed kids, it sort of like sets off a lot of red flags. And I know they're using permanent subs now, but it seems that there could be better approaches. And even if it was just done on an emergency basis, if there was a grandfathering of it, so this would be forever, there would be an alternative. I mean, it would just, this population so vulnerable, turnover around special education is teachers, if they're not prepared, they're not gonna stay. And then the damage that can be done from a teacher that's not well prepared with these kids is, it's just, I think that exception was written into this law for a reason, but, anyway, I appreciate that report. I don't know, so do you know where it's gonna go from here? Do you have any idea how it's gonna move?
Anticipate it.
And the House has a companion bill, or?
Well, to be voted out of committee in the Senate.
Right.
And then it would go to the full floor in the Senate.
Right, but is the House also doing something similar?
They don't have a companion bill. It would have.
It'd go over after, okay. All right.
How long is the program?
That's a good question. Scott, do you know?
3-year program, what I understand.
3-year program?
Well, you're teaching for 3 years. Yeah, it's
so
not you're in school for 3 years.
The actual length of the program would actually be determined
Yeah,
by the
you get to
department
teach.
and the requirements
Full-time.
for approval of the program.
Is this for all special ed populations, or just for
And it's
LD,
online.
or?
That's also something, it's my understanding, that we can decide. So in the bill, there's a
You send me
minimum of 12 credits required. Due to the department that we would require more
12 credits is what they require?
for the traditional program. But if the bill passes and the department were to consider approving such a program, we could increase that requirement.
Right.
If that were.
Do they already have to have a certification, a teaching certification, to go into the program?
Yeah, so it's either for a person that already has it and wants to become endorsed, or it's a person that doesn't already have it but has a bachelor's or master's or doctorate in something else and wants to mid-career switch into teaching. So either or.
This is something we have with the nursing shortage, and there was a degree that was 18 months, and it was effective.
And in your profession, the issue was not whether this would be ideal, but rather, given the nursing shortage, is this better than what you're currently experiencing?
Mm-hmm.
So it was 0 versus 18,
Correct.
as opposed to 18 versus traditional.
Which was 4 years.
And that is the argument that's being made currently with respect to special education teacher certification, that to your point earlier, the traditional preparation for special education teachers is what is ideal. And that's why there was this exception within the law historically. And under those conditions, those enduring conditions, we should stay there in relative perpetuity, given the fragileness of the young people that we're discussing, and the needs of the young people that we're discussing. The challenge, though, is that the conditions aren't the same, and that they've deteriorated, and that right now, what we've got teaching our young people is not the traditionally certified people, it's people coming off the street who not only aren't certificated, but they may not even have degrees. They may literally be a long-term sub who's got, X number of diffuse college credits.
I wouldn't want a nurse. I'd prefer the nurse with the 4-year degree to take care of me, but than the 18-month one. But I can see it as a stopgap measure, or it just seems like it's on the cheap. It's like, how do we get somebody in that's a little bit better than what we have? And I'm just wondering if there could be explored other ways to get people into the profession that are really well prepared for, especially more challenging populations. Like, I wouldn't send somebody with an alternative certification to go teach at the Michigan School for the Deaf if they don't have the specialties because they'll chew them up and spit them out.
It's a good point.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think, and I think of other challenging kids with challenging disabilities or that have, you know, that I'm just really cautious. I'm not saying that it's to completely say absolutely no, but I wouldn't want it to be for forever if it was a way to provide, and then if we could, because what I hear from the higher ed folks and the students that are in my husband's a special ed teacher, is it's the financing, it's the paying of the tuition, it's the, you know, that is an impediment, and especially when they get out and they don't have, you know, jobs that'll pay off the loans for the money that they invested. And so I'm wondering if there's, you know, there's ways to, like I said, if they have high need areas, for ways to work out where you forgive the expenses or forgive the loans, or if you work in a high needs area where that thing is, that specialty is needed. Some of the ways to encourage, you know, fully qualified teachers in the long run, and that this isn't just the solution and we took care of it, and it just seems like it's a plug, it's a stopgap, but it's not, it's to me not the best way to go. I mean, I understand the desperation, but it doesn't seem like a desperate stopgap solution should be a long-term solution.
So if I hear that correctly, you would be comfortable with this as a provisional provisional law that would exist subject to, or provided that there continued to be a shortage of special education teachers, and this were required in order to...
Right, and if it doesn't, and that certain populations are exempt, or that there are other things that we don't just say, oh, we took care of it and
Certain categories
walk
of
away.
special needs kids would be exempt from.
Right, and we would find ways to get teachers into those professions in an effective way, that where they're really needed. And
Well, I guess my concern is I'm looking at their website right now. This is an online training program that, quote, prepares you for success in the classroom. I don't know how you can work with a special population like that based on a few, you know, whatever, 12 weeks or whatever this is, of online instruction, and then you get thrown into a classroom. To me, that would just be completely overwhelming for everybody.
And it seems to be counterintuitive to everything we just heard about the new standards, about getting 600 hours and, you know, being familiar with them and with your students and different types of students.
Right. I think you're absolutely right. I think the 600 hours, though, references the ideal. That is what we ought to be about. We ought to be about incubating our young people in teacher prep programs over a period of years, such that when they begin, they are fully capable, that we've worked them and they've worked their craft, and they're ready to roll. That would be ideal. Unhappily, though, we don't have enough of those. And the question is not the traditional versus this alternative program, but the alternative program versus Michael Rice off the street. And
But
it's not that big of a step.
I'm just going to say, I don't know why we are putting our teacher prep institutions through all of this on a regular basis to update and improve if we've decided that this is acceptable. If it's acceptable here, then, you know, maybe we should let the experts be the experts and not go through all of these standards and everything that we do on a regular basis, because how are they supposed to compete with this? How are students supposed to sign up, take out tens of thousands of dollars of debt to go through a program? They can't work because they have all of these hour requirements now to go into the classroom, which I think is great to give them that experience, but why are we forcing them to do this level and then saying on the other hand, but you know what, this is okay too? that I've never understood. That's why I've always had a problem with alternative certification programs, because I've never understood the dynamic between the two.
Thank you. Ms. Snyder?
So for an alternative person going through this program, this is just me making assumptions, so we would just have to fact check it, but they already have a degree, a bachelor's degree or master's degree. It's not like they're just coming not doing any work and they're up here and they're down here. That's not what's happening here. Bachelor's degree, master's degree, I'm going to take this alternative route, and it's extra on top of it. So it's not like we're doing this. I think that's an unfair mischaracterization of what this would be. And if you have power, like she's talking about, you could add some hours to it. We would not turn out nurses during the nursing shortage for an 18-month period without bedside experience. We're not going to say, hey, good job, 18 months, strong work, go throw an IV in. Like, we're not going to do that, right? You wouldn't do that. I trust that you wouldn't do that. And again, it's a stopgap. It's not something where we're setting a new standard of this is what it looks like to become a teacher. It's just a part of the solution of the teacher shortage is kind of what I'm hearing as a possibility. But I don't think that this is what we're looking at. I mean, it's unfair to say, hey, you went and got a master's degree or a bachelor's degree, and now you're doing a 3-year program on top of that, but you're here, and the 4-year traditional's here.
It's 3 years of teaching. It's not like going to a college of education where you're taking classes and you're doing student teaching and you're doing, it's online coursework, and then bam, you're in a classroom. That's my concern, because I think just throwing people into a classroom, I have a PhD and I don't think I could do that. That takes pedagogical understanding that I wouldn't have even with a PhD. So that's where my concern is. I'm just afraid that we're setting people up for failure, but in the meantime, who are they failing? Kids.
Well, nobody has to hire them.
And that's the argument that was made when this first came about. So
So it really doesn't solve the problem.
yeah, I guess.
I think most of us would prefer a larger incubation period. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. The issue is not what's preferable. The issue is what we've got now. We have classrooms across the state without certificated special education teachers in them. This is the #1 shortage area in the state, bar none. When superintendents are asked about this, they're surveyed about it. They were surveyed at the beginning of the year by MASA. What was said, the major shortage area, was special education teachers. And I think 2/3 of those surveyed said that they had a vacancy in special education. This is a major issue. So what we do today doesn't necessarily have to be the new normal, doesn't have to be done in perpetuity. But the question becomes, who would you rather teach your kid? Someone who has some experience or someone who literally has no experience teaching special education young people at all? And I think we have to reflect upon that. We're obviously not going to make any decisions today, but I do think it's a robust argument. And Pastor Tilley, you bring the benediction to us.
Jesus. Don't they have programs like this already? Don't they have programs that at colleges you can take online, like USC,
Yes, ma'am.
University of Southern California, and then short programs where you can get your certificate? I think U of D has one too.
There is a range of alternative programs that we currently have, yes.
Okay.
But not for
But
special ed.
but general ed, special education is prohibited by state statute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just trying to get clarity.
Yeah, you bet. Any other thoughts? Dr. Pugh, Dr. Pritchett.
Okay, so my questions are all over the place, so if it's specific to this, I'll let you go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to, so if this bill would pass and get enacted, I'm very linear. Person with a master's or a bachelor's degree in, I'm going to say engineering, decides they would like to try this. They're hired by the school district, placed in the classroom, and then sign up with this company to take online classes? I just want to make sure linear, I've got this.
That presumes that we would permit that in our process. That assumes that we would
So the
approve that.
department has the.
We have the discretion to say yes or no to that program as constituted. We could say, you need to embellish that program in the following ways in order to satisfy that standard.
Or you could say, we're going to go with this process over here.
Yes,
process
ma'am.
B. Okay.
Yes,
All right,
ma'am.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Pugh.
My question is, can you tell us, Caroline, could you tell us the timeline again that we're working under, and then what's it looking like from a legislative standpoint?
Well, all I know at this point is I do anticipate it back on the Senate Education. And I do believe so at that point, I don't know how much.
So is there any way that we could hear from the field? And then I would be interested in doing some sort of a statement as it relates to.
We can certainly do a little survey of the field. You bet. Yeah, and see what.
Make a statement.
Yeah, and see what the field says, and then based on that, make some determination about where we stand. Just a note, though, MASA representing superintendents put in a card of support. MASB in support of school boards put in a card of support. I'm not saying that's necessarily what you're going to get in a survey of superintendents, but having been a local superintendent for 17 years and knowing the way MASA and other ASAs, other superintendents associations work, they're, as a rule, not taking on their membership, they're reflecting their membership. So we can certainly survey local superintendents. I think what we're going to get is what's reflected in the MASA endorsement.
I know I've received messages.
Pardon me?
I'm sorry, why don't you survey special ed parents?
Well, we could, there's no doubt, but special ed parents don't want non-certificated people teaching their young people either.
So that's what I know I've received messages, inbox, and responses to posting. So I would just like to hear the response to the legislation, but then I would like us to be able to put out a statement that puts some parameters, perhaps, versus just a blanket no or a blanket yes. Sure. And then to that end, I don't recall, and this is I'm turning the corner, so I don't know if we want to leave this.
This is the pivot. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, there you go.
So I think that I had questions around the Michigan merit curriculum and whether or not we had made any statements. And I don't know if it was particular to this bill, but so maybe I'll come back to that. But maybe we might want to make a statement as it relates to that. And then I could not remember if there has been a statement that's been made by us as it relates to teacher evaluation. That was a question that was raised in a meeting that I was in, and what I found, I don't know if it was most relevant. And then I just wanted to get an update. I know you and I have talked a little bit about that as far as Senator Horn moving on legislation or looking at the teacher evaluation piece, and just wanted to know again where we are with that so I can take notes this time.
Sure. So we have done testimony on 600, 601 on the MMC bills that were introduced by Senator Bumstead. And our testimony was gentle, but it was in opposition. It said you are eliminating the personal curriculum. We disagree with that. You are trying to make something into a personal curriculum that was never meant to be a personal curriculum. We have challenges with that, the EDP. You have provided no opportunity for special needs students to get a high school diploma pursuant to their IEPs. We disagree with that. It's a lost opportunity. This is a once-in-a-generation look at the MMC, and you ought to be looking at that if you're going to do a once-in-a-generation look at the Michigan Merit curriculum. So we said we disagreed with that. And in general, we disagreed with the notion that flexibility in and of itself is necessarily better. Some flexibility is better, some flexibility isn't. The flexibility to take whatever course you want without having to take a math course, without having to take a science course, is not good flexibility, for example. And we thought that there was too great a flexibility noted. So that was the expression in our testimony. With respect to teacher evaluation, would you like to update the board on that?
Yeah, at this point, we've met with Senator Horn as he's the one that sponsored the bills from last year to maintain 25% growth for the evaluations rather than bumping it up to 40. As you know, it is 40 as of now for this school year. So Senator Horn is interested in pursuing similar legislation again, with the caveat that Chairwoman Hornberger stated that she's not interested in just continuously maintaining 25% for a year and introducing the same bill the next year. So she was requesting a bit more consensus from the stakeholders involved. So we've met since with Senator Horn again to discuss potential options that we would support. And we've also since met with, Representative Hornberger, and we will be meeting with Senators, both of the chairs for our standing committees. So we've said that we, first off, support a full repeal of the law, but if there is an appetite for that in the legislature, that we, of course, maintain our support of 25% measurement of growth, and also that we prefer for the locals to have flexibility in choosing the assessment, so they are not forced to use the
Is there any way that I could get both of those in writing?
Sure. We'll put a summary together. We'll send it to the board.
Okay, that'd be great. And I don't know if, as a board, we need to make statements as it relates to these two items aside from the department. I don't know what we've done in the past.
We can propose anything.
Okay.
But I think it'd be good for the superintendent to get that survey information to us, and then we can determine. I would like to also get some feedback on why the associations think it's a good idea. I wanna know from MSA, the both of them, or all of them, that why do they think it's a good idea?
Because we have non-teachers teaching special education now.
Okay, all right, so it's their rationale.
So it's three different items that we're talking about here. Then we're talking about the certification, we're talking about the Michigan Merit Curriculum, and we're also talking about the teacher evaluation. So I would like to, first of all, be able to get what the department, their thoughts on all three.
Sure.
And then to do whatever we need to do to determine if it's necessary to put out a statement. I thought we put out a statement on the teacher evaluation before.
I seem to recall doing
Okay.
Well, it wasn't specific to these new, eliminate health and PE, but it was on the fine arts. We did a
Yes,
statement
that's
on the
right.
fine arts. And I don't think we included foreign languages, but I'd have to look at the statement. And I
But the
don't
teacher
have it
evaluation,
now.
the 25%, 40%, or
We've never done
nothing,
that.
no evaluation? I thought that was before.
I thought we did that
I thought
a
it was
while
before you
ago.
all's time.
That was
But,
before.
so.
We can resurface it, we could.
Well, and there's a value to reiterating that.
Right.
The teacher evaluation law was widely represented to be something that was going to help students. It was going to put better teachers in classrooms. It has not put better teachers in classrooms. It has been a phenomenal time sink from my perspective. It is tremendously anxiety-provoking, and it has not improved student achievement at all. We need a teacher evaluation system. Why that needs to be state dictated is unclear to me. I am at a loss as to how the world is better post-teacher evaluation law as opposed to pre-teacher evaluation law. I don't think it's better. I do urge repeal. But to Caroline's point, I don't think that the legislature is ready to go there yet. So in lieu of full repeal, or while waiting for full repeal, while building consciousness toward full repeal, we are supportive of 25% for student growth, not the 40%, and a removal of the state assessment as being part of that 25% growth. It was never a test that was designed to do that, and state summative assessments ought not to be yoked with all sorts of Solomon-like judgments associated therewith. It just does not make sense. It's hard enough to be a summative assessment, let alone being a summative assessment that's involved in the evaluations of teachers. I believe in teacher evaluation. I don't believe in teacher evaluation associated with a state summative assessment. And I don't believe in a state evaluation law. I don't think it's necessary. I think it was a law in search of a problem.
And I would say one of the biggest problems with the evaluations is that there's no appeal process for the teachers except to go to a superintendent. And I don't think that, and with the how tenure has been affected, how it's been pretty much eviscerated in a lot of ways, it really, it's an arena where you can have a lot of very unfair and unjust decisions. And so having an appeal process, if there was any way, even if we had to keep it, it just seems to me that there was a fairer way to reassess those decisions to see if they were done in all fairness. Because sometimes just even having the evaluation, you have a principal walk in for 10 minutes, and if you filed a grievance against them, he might not like how you teach. So it's like, I think, and that needs to be taken into consideration.
So to your point, if it were returned to local school districts,
Yeah.
they could recreate their appellate routes.
Well, they need to have it be subject. It should be subject to bargaining. The teachers and the administration should work out a system that
No disagreement.
That everybody agrees is fair. Yeah. And they made it so it's not even subject to bargaining. The teachers don't have a voice. So that, to me, is a really big fatal flaw in the whole process.
I do actually think, not to go too far down this rabbit hole, but I do think this is one of the things that has changed a teacher's sense of the profession, and by extension, how he or she expresses their thoughts about the profession to prospective candidates into the profession.
Right.
It's actually to Mr. McMillan's sense of a denigration of joy within the profession, a chipping away at joy in the profession. And for that and many other reasons, I think we ought to urge repeal.
So my question still stands. I don't know if there's a motion that's needed, or if we gather the information and then decide what we do. And I'm talking about all three. I'm talking about all three
Why don't we pull together the information?
Okay.
It's 4:10. We've been meeting since 9:30. Okay, so people are tired. I don't know that people are going to necessarily change their thinking, but they ought to be able to look at the information fresh. We'll share it with you, and if the board has an interest in voting on a position on one, the other, the third, all three, as you choose next month, that's fine. But let's do it
Okay, I
fresh
just
and
couldn't
considered.
remember how we were supposed to, before we used to, bring together.
Committee
yeah.
and then.
Okay, so I'll make my recommendation once we explore the information,
And
so.
when, if I could say, when you're asking for opinions, I think it's good to get a broad stakeholder group, including organizations that represent families of children with special ed, and not just the administrators, but also the teachers, the unions,
Yeah.
other organizations that deal with these types of issues. CEAC for one, they're supposed to be advising us, and there's a whole huge array of folks on CEAC, and I would like to know what they think as well.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Thank you.
And I would hope to be able to bring some of our own responses back too.
Sure.
Okay.
Right, and this is not something that's necessarily going to get done next month.
Right. No, I know.
So, you're talking about a canvassing on 3 bills. Some of this, I think, is pretty straightforward, some less so. The piece on 657, that's going to take a different form of canvassing, I think, than the piece on teacher evaluation, which has been out there for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know, because I'm just going to finish my question, because someone asked me about those two, the teacher evaluation and the Michigan merit. So if I could get, and I know you gave a testimony, so I'm hoping that's already in writing, so if you could just forward that
We could
to
send
us.
you the testimony.
Okay, that'd be great.
Probably today.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, thank you. President Elbridge.
I don't know if I should raise this now or at the end, but I have been asked about Muskegon Heights. And if you remember, they were placed under emergency management years ago, turned over to charter operators. And folks in the Muskegon are now asking, how do we exit out of this? I'm not even sure the law under which they were placed under emergency management even exists anymore. And so they are asking for some direction on if they wanted to perhaps become owners over their own school district again, how would that work? So I know you can't answer it today, but it's something that I would ask someone here to put some thought into maybe?
We can certainly share more on Muskegon Heights there. As a former superintendent once said to me, there are 2 sides to every story, sometimes more. And so let us share a little bit on Muskegon Heights. I do not know the status of the law that charterized Muskegon Heights. We'll get you some more clarity on it. Okay, thank you. Yes.
When are we going to get an update on Benton Harbor? Because I know that a lot of the challenges were made worse by everything that happened
Right.
last year.
So there'll be an update next month on our partnership districts. Benton Harbor, not a partnership district, but we will give an update on Benton Harbor, probably under the report of the superintendent, to keep it separate from the Office of Partnership Districts report. It likely will be Bill Pearson doing the 2, but we do want to keep it separate because we do want to make clear that they are different. The OPD districts are there because of an academic problem. The SEAC in Benton Harbor is first and foremost financial and by extension academic. The financial exacerbates and makes untenable the academic. So it would be next month. Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions? Más preguntas?
Después de esta reunión.
Okay. Does anybody?
I said after this meeting.
Right. Okay.
I don't want to keep anybody here.
NASB.
Yeah, NASB. Yes, ma'am.
The annual legislative conference is taking place on March 22nd. Wanted to know if any board members are planning on attending. No?
I'm looking into it.
Okay. All right.
I may not be able to go because my job is having me go back and forth to DC, and I will be there the week before that, so.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Anything else for the good of the group?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Is this the end where we get to make our statements?
As a matter of fact, it is. Are there any
Okay.
board members who wish to offer statements?
I would like to. Thank you.
Okay, very good.
A couple of things. One thing is, I feel like there's a lot of good brainstorming that we do at this table and a lot of great suggestions, but I also feel like sometimes it just blows in the wind. And I would like to see if there's a staff member that you can assign to capture some of these things and they become tasks and some of the things that we say come into fruition.
That happens here.
It does?
It does with
Because
Maryland.
some things I feel like it's just blowing in the wind. Okay.
Okay. But
And
there's a
then-
difference between an individual statement from an individual board member and a direction from a board. And that it gets said at a board meeting by an individual board member and that there's a resolution associated therewith are two different things. We do draw a distinction between the two.
Some things aren't resolutions, though.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, I understand. And information requests, for example, we fulfill those on a regular basis. So, for example, I'll go back to the office. We'll send you the
Sometimes.
the information on
Sometimes.
testimony for Michigan Merit Curriculum. Okay. Anything else for yes?
And also, February is Black History Month. I would like to see that acknowledged. I know I suggested a historian come in, and that was too short of a notice, but in the future, Black History Month, I would love to see someone come in. And two, I thought about the idea because of the ruckus that was caused during social studies. People felt like sometimes their communities are misrepresented. I know not just in the African American community, but other communities in the curriculum. That we feel like sometimes things are misrepresented. So I would love to have a historian come in and represent the African American community.
Would that be around African American History Month?
It would be during Black History Month, but also I would like to see, because we did not get a chance to do it this February, I would like to see it done before that,
Okay.
before 21.
Okay. Fair enough. Other thoughts from other board members?
Go ahead, Tom.
Real quickly, I don't want to bring up for a lot of discussion. I just wanted to mention the teacher evaluation. When I was in the legislature, the only solution I could come up with was to just say a state law that says everybody must have one and that they must post whatever it is online, and then let peer pressure. If it's something ridiculous, then it's going to be exposed as something ridiculous. So just let peer pressure take over and just say, you got to have one, post it online so everybody can see it, done. So that, I don't know if you'll get them to repeal, because then perception would be, oh, nobody should, the teacher evaluation shouldn't be done. And so I think that that was what I always advocated as a alternative to what ended up being law. Just a thought.
All right. Thank you. Anything more?
The recent incident in Saline, and we've had a opportunity to talk about that. If there's anything that we can think of, I know Lupe and I received responses, questions, requests for if there was anything that the state board could do. Not anything that was very clear for us to do. I did have some conversation with some of the folks from out of Saginaw, and their thoughts were, really just a statement that said that, that is not something that we expect to happen in our school districts. And if there's anything that we can offer, I don't know if there are things that we can offer the schools across the state as it relates to improving race and ethnicity relations within those districts.
Tell me what you mean by offer.
That we can really catalog if there's any, if we know, well, first of all, that we know what is out there and what's available to school districts, and if we could catalog those and provide those, or if there is an entity that that we know that catalogs and provides those type of services where we're talking about cultural competency or some of the things that we talked about earlier today.
So it wouldn't necessarily be an endorsement of. It would be, I mean, I guess, you're right, because I guess the question becomes, are we vouching for the services of these individuals?
No, we can't do that.
Okay.
I wouldn't think that we could do that, but I'm just thinking some sort of a catalog listing of accredited or that someone else maybe hasn't endorsed, but we're not endorsing them. We're saying this is where districts can go to get assistance. But one, I think that just us speaking to the issue, and then number two, and that, you know, it's unacceptable behavior, and two, just the fact that other districts may be facing similar situations, and I would hate for that to pop up, and, you know, we've not put anything out saying that this is where you can go to get help. We're not it's not a list of endorsement, and I don't know, you know, I don't know what we do here in the district, I mean, in the department. I know once upon a time, there were some services that we had here, but I don't know if they still exist.
Any of the deputies, are you aware of any such a list?
I'm forgetting, out of EMU.
Let me find it. Oh, God.
Offered some district level assistance on some of these.
We have people in the department that have worked with people outside of the department. My issue is not putting together a list. My issue is the list appearing to be an endorsement. And that's where it gets a little bit tricky. The list is pretty easy to put together. There aren't hundreds of people in the state that are doing this work. So putting together a list, canvassing that world, I think is pretty straightforward. But I think any list that we would put together would feel like an endorsed list.
And, you know, I've worked for other state agencies, and we've had to put together a list of places where people go to get help, and we very clear this is not an all-inclusive list, and it's also not, we endorse no one on this list. The other thing we could do is refer people to another department that might be aware. I know in the past we've co-written letters with the Department of Civil Rights. So I don't know if there's anything that we can do there.
Okay. Let us think about that. That's we do know people in this space. How we might word that is a question. Did I see another hand up?
You have the communication from the district.
You talk about the Celine?
Yeah.
Communication? Yeah.
You have that?
Yeah.
Communication?
Yeah.
Well, there was one.
WISD did issue.
There was one from Washington ISD, yes.
Well, something like that, can we make a statement, something similar to what Washington Superintendents Association made?
We could do that, yes.
Yeah, even that, something, because they look up to us as the educational leaders, and they're telling us, as educational leaders, are you condoning this behavior? I don't know whether this would be a good pattern to follow as a department, but the Washington Superintendents Association did. But I concur with Pamela's concern, because we were asked by people all over the state, actually, what are you doing? And what I told them was that we had talked about it in our legislative committee, and that you had sent something to the, if I understand correctly, something to the school districts addressing bullying, and that we were going to review our bullying policy, which is 10 years old. And I want, now that we're talking about it, I want to know where that is at, if we have assigned somebody in the department to start reviewing that, because these are things that I told the public that are some of the things that we're doing in the department. But in other words, we have our handle on it, And, you know, we're proactive. We know that this is
So
happening.
why don't we have Kyle Garanta, our deputy superintendent, share the process?
Dr. Rice asked that we send out the current policy to districts to let them know that we're going to go through this revision process and any feedback that people have. The survey's been open for the better part of 6 weeks now. And we've had 7 responses so far. So not a lot of input into the early stage. So what we will do is we will take any of that feedback that's relevant and start updating the policy, make it relevant with current law, best practices, those type of things.
Good, thank you.
Draft back to you at some point before we go through the adoption process.
So you know what I told them was true, but I wanted them to know because they brought it up. Remember when I went to the meet and greets? Everywhere I go, that's the main subject, bullying and this name calling. That's what everybody, and they tell me if our students are not happy and don't feel good about coming to school and all that, it doesn't matter what else you do. So bullying is in everybody's mind all over the state. White, black, Hispanic, de todos colores, all colors. People are, and I'm glad that that's happening. Thank you.
Anything more from the board? If not, future meetings are Tuesday, March 10th, April 14th, and May 12th at 9:30 in this room. If there are any topics beyond the ones that we've just heard, if you could share those with Marilyn, that would be great. During the upcoming week, we work to finalize the agenda for next month's meeting, and we already have meeting agenda items roughly fleshed out for a few meetings. So get your thoughts in if they are relatively urgent. If they're not relatively urgent and it's just putting them in a queue, that's a different story.
Now, I just have one question. You know, I recommended to recognize the blue ribbon schools.
Yeah.
If we wait too long, it's going to be ancient history.